Huh?
You like that shit or?
Nah, this shit was not funny, bro.
Ah, you like that shit. Right on top, you like that.
This nigga.
Hey, you like that. Chill out, bro. She got you going or what?
This nigga.
Oh, let's go. I like buying Game Pass for no reason, dude. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, I fucking hate it. Oh yeah, I love playing fucking 2K. I hate it. I love it so much, bro. I'm not just play this fucking hunter game. Fuck you, dude.
Boom, 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 boom. This nigga.
Hey, is Daisy the waiver or
Daisy. The fuck?
is Daisy the waiver or?
Fuck no. Nigga said Daisy. The fuck?
Your big share so
Damn, man.
I don't know what the fuck to play, bro. Oh, I never played this Assassin's Creed.
Fuck is that?
Assassin's Creed?
No. You never played it?
Huh?
I swear I seen you play that bitch.
Well, I'm not. Well, I haven't played all of them.
Oh,
I played Brotherhood. That's the one with like you recruit people, right?
I think so. Oh no, I don't play. I never got into Assassin's Creed like that. Besides, like the
Oh,
first and third one.
Skulls and Bones is free. I played that.
Yeah, you got the. That's all you.
Mm. It said that the Game Pass has Black Ops 6, but it doesn't show it.
It's probably don't forget it's under Call of Duty. All that's under Call of Duty now.
Black Ops 6 is the new one, right?
Nah, it's the new one's coming out in like a couple days.
Wait, I thought, oh, that's Battlefield on top.
Yeah.
Shit, well, I just realized too the fucking the game, the Ring or Not,
Yeah.
it's not on there. So just yeah,
No way. I thought you said you checked and it was there.
or you could turn off Reaper Bill and you should get into it and don't do it, or you can cancel now for a refund. Okay, cool.
You're lying. What the fuck?
Yeah.
No, so no 2K?
Huh? Fuck no, I'm playing 2K. What's that game? Garbage. I won't be charged again. Oh, thank you. Just shit you.
This nigga.
I'm gonna just keep doing that.
Just to play like 1 hour and shit, just cancel the next.
But actually, you wasted all that shit, so we're actually gonna fucking do it. You said it kind of, yeah. So 11/26 is today, right?
Yeah.
Freesh. Fuck yeah. Um, I think the subscription, there's like Game Pass. What are the other ones? There's Game Pass and there's something else.
EA Play, Ubisoft. Forgot the other one.
What the fuck is this? Game Pass Essential? What's that?
That's like you. That's like the like so. Ultimate is level 3. That's everything. Essentials is 2. Then there's live, just like the regular shit.
Or for this one's Premium, Essential, and Ultimate.
Yeah, Ultimate you got like every game and shit. Like
Yeah.
everything discounts and shit. It's all weird.
So the Premium, okay, so the Essential is basically like the regular just playing on game, online, just like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Game Pass Premium is games within a huge benefits and time. Dude, it says buy for 1 month, you fucking liars. And it's making me fucking wanna do it for whatever. Then selling Game Pass Essential for $1.
Oh shit! Oh
By clicking it's fucking
yeah. They try to get you.
5 more bucks.
Wow, that's funny.
So Game Pass on the Essential. These are okay. I'm never playing okay. So do you want to play that game or with?
I mean, I'm gonna get it from Brian if you get it, but if you don't want to, then no. But you gotta pay it. You gotta pay that bitch. That's the only thing.
That's what I'm telling you. Either you're gonna play it or not. If not, then I'm just not interested.
Nigga, have you seen that game?
Yeah, it's like realistic.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, man.
The video or not?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's like hostages and shit.
Yeah, but gee. each other and shit.
This nigga. Yeah, I got down with that group. I never seen no trailers or none of that shit. Only just whatever I heard from Brian.
You're probably gonna need a headset for this shit.
Yeah. Can't play with it.
Wow. I guess I'm telling about Fm26 again.
Yeah.
Fucking sucks.
That's crazy to give you a refund though.
What? Fuck, it says I have Game Pass still.
Hey, nigga cheated the system. Good.
Yeah, because I have all the games. Like, it shows all games.
Fuck you. It's free. It's free.
I don't know, bro. That means charging from someone.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? I was gonna be what's it called, right?
You ready or not?
I'm just having like. Wait, what the fuck I deleted it? What are you talking about? The fuck it's on here still? I didn't delete it.
Well, Battlefield or
Hey, what the fuck?
what happened?
Do I have to like manage gaming add-ons? So I have to uninstall it like this now?
What are you talking about?
Because at first I'll just press the start button and then there'll be like an uninstall tab on it. But I checked and Battlefield and Ticket weren't deleted.
Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know.
That's so weird. Yeah, but it still works.
Hey,
Now,
2K.
check that subscription, bro. It's gonna be fucking
Nah, probably in the morning. It'll probably go away in the morning.
the game.
Huh?
The game.
No, like your thing, like the Game Pass. Like it's probably there just for like probably going away in like 2 hours or some shit.
They'll probably do that where at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Nigga, it's hot as fuck in my room. What the fuck?
Sure, I'll let you know tomorrow, bro.
I bet.
Alright.
I bet it's good.
Off. You know, footballers should want to play as much football as possible, or because maybe they're just frustrated with their own performance. Either way, we should be building a squad around Saka, him, and Kane. You know, in terms of like a attacking output. Make it work. Whatever the circumstances, you definitely can. Shout out to Ian Wright for sticking up for him over on social. I'm making a full video about this situation over the weekend, but I feel like I've seen this script before. Is it a colour thing? One of my nations is through to the World Cup. The other, yeah, nice. Nigerian off in a World Cup playoff to DR Congo. Dr. Congo, you know, this is going out to the rest of Africa, sending their condolences. They've been high spirits as well. Victor Moses taken to Twitter to say, let's go. Go where, broski? We're going straight home. Cedric Bakambu wasn't letting us go anywhere, mate. Blast. A World Cup qualifying campaign has been an absolute nightmare, really, from the start. Symbolic results against the likes of Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and also Benin, culminating in the playoff we shouldn't have been in the first place, and then losing on penalties here to DR Congo. We even saw Victor Osimhen get substituted at half-time, who decided he was just going to do up tactics from the bench, probably better than any manager we've had over the last 8 years, Victor. He was trying to do Ronaldo at Euro 2016 shenanigans, but he hasn't got the aura for that. So, Kelvin Bassey missed a deciding penalty in the shootout. I don't think his choice of shorts was that good that he stepped up to take it. If you've been in Lagos over the last week, the collective from every across the country registered on the Richter scale, from uncles all in their houses. Meanwhile, Nigeria's manager blamed voodoo performed by Congo's goalkeeper before the penalty shootout for the reason his team lost. Bringing Victor Osimhen off at half-time, pal. That is the voodoo here. That goalkeeper was sprinkling the nastiest black magic onto his goal line, and he probably didn't even need to do it, bro. You're playing Nigeria. We'll fuck it up somehow. Now, back in European qualifying, with the way Italy's group had gone so far and a goal difference in favour of Norway, Italy knew they needed to go out and demolish this Norwegian side 9-0 for any chance of... Yeah, now they got slapped up. They lost 4-1.
Sometimes maybe shit. Sometimes maybe shit.
Italy forget to play football when it's time to qualify for a World Cup.
A living, breathing, walking example of shite.
This victory over Italy confirmed Norway's qualification to a World Cup for the first time since 1998. And after the disappointment of not qualifying for the most recent Euros, it was a great bounce back from the likes of Martin Ødegaard and Erling Haaland. The latter, who registered 18 goal contributions across the World Cup qualifiers in his group. His form for his nation is despicable. Bro's a genuine demon and somehow manages to look like a little brother next to Alexander Zorlov. We might need to genetically test these guys. I don't even know what they'd be looking for, but we've got to do something. Tension sparked in this one though with a clash between Gianluca Mancini and Erling Haaland. The Manchester City striker confirming that Gianluca had touched his arse during it, and that gave him the motivation to go out and put a good performance in here. He was ready for as soon as he felt left hand on right buttock cheek. Let's be honest, he was probably disappointed when he turned around and it wasn't Calafiori. The reverse angle is even more egregious. You've got to question at this point Italy's efforts to mark Erling from a corner 10 minutes later.
He's up in those cheeks. Oh, he's going crazy. Oh my god.
Upon qualification, and Erling Haaland made sure to treat the rest of his teammates for all of them to go and sprint inside the dressing room. They were ordered by him. There's probably some dark surprise in there. Martin Ødegaard struggling to finish his dinner when he tucks in and realises there's raw cheese in it. We take a break from European qualifying again to head over to the CONCACAF region where absolute chaos was taking place. Now obviously this World Cup is being held in the CONCACAF region and across 3 different nations. That combined with the expansion of the World Cup means we're always going to get a pretty unique set of nations qualifying from the likes of the Caribbean, joining Canada, the US and Mexico. And against all odds, thanks to a 0-0 draw on the final day, Curacao became the smallest nation to ever qualify for a World Cup with a population of just 155,000 people, with a draw against Jamaica, helped by Trinidad and Tobago scoring a late goal against the Jamaicans in the game before. Jamaica and Nigeria both facilitating foolishness at the same time.
And we are
Stupid ass niggas. Give him the funny.
It was late drama with a penalty not given and reversed overturned against Curacao, who would have knocked them out in heartbreaking fashion, and it's led to Steve McLaren resigning upon not taking this Jamaican side for a while. Realistically, in the group that he was in, he definitely should have done. He's had his Aki and Saltfish license review. Steve White was struggling to make him feel better over dinner when he got back to the house. But having been taken over by the Jamaican spirit, the Caribbean islands, he was trying to get the boys out for one final rum punch before he left forever. It didn't really go to plan. Suriname also had a chance to qualify as a pretty small nation, but completely fucked it. They can still make it through the playoffs. Their defenders just took a nap when it was time to actually qualify for this tournament. What they're supposed to do was chase up. But then one team that didn't have the opportunity was Haiti. Yet another tiny nation in the grand scheme of football. Their celebrations were absolutely wild, qualifying for the World Cup themselves and Curacao, alongside Jordan, Uzbekistan. This is cinema. Back in Europe and Sweden are still terrible. Liverpool's hired Graham Potter on a short-term basis recently. Only he's come in and they're still playing. This brother thought it was bad at West Ham. He's going to be getting his face whooped on the serial terror suspects line in entire nation now. At this rate, it's only a matter of time for the Swedish Football Association or Expelliarmusing him out of there. Now there is no clue what we've all been waiting for, because over in Romania, the best our beautiful nation have to offer, were called up to international duty to face off against San Marino this week, and San Marino took the lead in like the second minute of the game. Maybe we've got to have a word with Romania after all. San Marino tweeted about the possibility of parking the bus early, so given they then went on to lose the game 7-1, I think it's fair to say that bus broke down, I'm afraid to tell you. If I'm the referee, I'm all in for full time in the third minute. I just know this lead went to the San Marinese players' heads. The goal scorer being told not to start dreaming of getting a statue outside of their stadium. What? I already did. Meanwhile, there's news from Brazil that may well have a ripple effect on the Premier League title race. That's because Gabriel was forced due to a muscular injury in a friendly. We'll see him out of action.
Why?
The only team that can your goals of the week. We've seen 3 already. How about 3 more? We stay on international duty, actually, but head down into Italy's youth side. They needed 9 goals to overturn goal difference against Norway. I think this goal should be worth 9 from Nicolo Fasili, who's flicked it over the defender and then scissor kicked it in on the volley, in off the post from a crazy angle. A flat-out, outright screamer, though, comes from the Latvian 3rd division of all places. Not really much to say apart from the fact that it's an absolute pile driver in off the crossbar like twice, but the final goal comes all the way from Uganda, and it is one of the most ridiculous goals I think I've ever seen. The only thing stunting it is I don't know if this is actually happening in an official match, but this is an incredible team goal with lovely bits of skill and flair, polished off by a nut strike from outside of the area, in off the crossbar as well. This is the Ballon d'Or of goals, just anywhere. Like, if I was even on the pitch at the same time as it's happening, my grandkids are finding out about it. Hello all, and welcome to the beautiful game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty.
Qui va bien s'en sortir et qui lance loin devant. Il est passé. Il a passé le gardien pour peut-être pour le but. Oh là 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 là. Mais quel raté.
And that concludes the beautiful game. There was a shock result in the US, as the US men's national team defeated Uruguay, and didn't just defeat them, they absolutely battered them 5-1. It saw Mauricio Pochettino outgirthing Marcelo Bielsa, and the former Leeds man is still probably sat on a lunchbox in absolute disbelief. Got like 4-0 up at half-time as well. This was just an all-round sensational performance. Without a lot of the US's big players involved, there was no Christian Pulisic, no Weston McKennie. In fact, all 5 of the goal scorers still play in the MLS right now. It's been a bad week for Christian Pulisic. Donald Trump chose to meet Cristiano Ronaldo instead of him, and he might not even find himself getting back into the US as starting 11. He really is the LeBron James of soccer, except his current LeBron. Like, he's about 57. It was heartache elsewhere in the CONCACAF region. I did talk about the likes of Haiti and Curacao qualifying for the World Cup earlier. One other nation that had a chance was Guatemala, but unfortunately they were eliminated. And their kit man, pretty heartbreakingly, was still having to do his job whilst breaking down in tears. Somebody go and hug my man. Tell him it's going to be okay. But this competition's getting expanded to 256 nations soon. You'll be there. Give it like 12 years. One team that still wouldn't qualify even if there was that many nations going is probably Burundi. A small nation located in Africa. They
Why did
managed
you
to
shoot
their
that?
own
Could have just waited.
Burundi B are going to the World Cup and Burundi A on. It was a big week for Somalia, who ended the world's longest winless run by beating Bahrain 2-1. Their last victory came years ago. With lots of turmoil and unrest in the nation, a really impressive achievement. Seychelles, however, probably shouldn't be proud of themselves, because their World Cup qualifying campaign ended with them having a -53 goal difference. Did they call up a goalkeeper at any stage during the tour? I just need to know. Chelsea-bound Dastan Sapaya was breaking records in Europe, though. His goal versus Belgium made him Kazakhstan's youngest ever goal scorer, as he prepares to be collected and put in the back of Todd Bowley's van. Over at Turkey, we've got a player doing a dummy that must have been communicated to him via a Ouija board. He was off Austria qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1998. If they could do more than they do at the Euros, which is qualify and then just go out in the group stages without contributing anything whatsoever, that would be greatly appreciated. But there was some drama going into their do-or-die clash against Bosnia and Herzegovina, as Bosnia complained that there was a lack of fair play between the two sides. Emir Karic was hoping to switch allegiances from Austria to Bosnian before the game, but apparently the paperwork was mysteriously not done in time. Yeah, I've got live scenes of what happened to that paperwork. There's a new star on the horizon and his name is Buffon. No, I haven't accidentally just transferred myself back to 1989. No, I'm talking about Louis, son of Gianluigi. Louis Buffon has scored back-to-back hat-tricks. Not for Italy, he actually represents the Czechia under-19 squad and is absolutely killing it for them at the moment. Meanwhile, big shout out to the Basque region, who obviously aren't like a full-on nation, but I guess they're like autonomous region. Either way, shout out Basque region, Bilbao from there, Real Sociedad as well. They decided to orchestrate a friendly with the national team of Palestine. It raised a lot of money. Palestine's players walking out with roses rather than mascots to kind of represent, I guess, the loss in terms of children as well in the nation over the last couple of years and significantly beyond 2023 as well. It wasn't really given much mainstream attention, so I just wanted to highlight it and say well done to both for coming together for a good cause. With significantly more attention down in the under-17 World Cup, when Morocco knocked out the US, it had seen Caelan Sullivan provoking Morocco's players after scoring a penalty to shoot out. The Moroccan players then returned by laughing at him as the US were left to lick their wounds. There's no such hostility between Mexico and Japan in this tournament. They've been sharing a hotel, and when each team does well and progresses to the next round, they all celebrate back at the hotel together. I think Japan started it. I think Mexico qualified from the groups or something, or won their first game, and Japan did a guard of honor for them. Now they just both celebrate together. They're all just best mates, and I love that, to be honest. Hamza Chowdhury is fast becoming a Bangladeshi football legend. He swapped allegiances from England to Bangladesh. Obviously, that's his heritage, so he's well within his rights to do so, and scored a bicycle kick against Nepal. He also helped them to their first win against India. Absolutely love him. A goal in the 17th minute of injury time helped Iraq through to a World Cup playoff at the expense of the United Arab Emirates. Sad times for Sky Sports Halo's target audience, as there won't be any Dubai chocolate at the World Cup of 2026. Elsewhere and away from international football, we had Neymar attempting to bring some skills to the table for Santos, and yeah, no lads, I think it might be over. I think the run might be done. It's hard finding out your goat swaps, I'm not gonna lie to you. Meanwhile, Lionel Messi is a lot of people's goats. His son may well be on the way, you never know. He's got a disgraceful free kick for his under-8 side, clearly learning from one of, if not the best. Messi, who scored a free kick recently for Inter Miami, the security guard was willing to risk it all, taking a break from looking into the stands to turn over his shoulder and see greatness. And I think he was pretty well rewarded. The Spanish Football Federation leader and kind of disgrace leader, I guess, Luis Rubiales, was giving a talk this week before being egged by someone from the crowd. It broke into a bit of a scrap, only for it to be revealed that the man holding the eggs was his own uncle, also called Luis Rubiales. He must have been bemused when he took off the mask and recognised him from the family barbecue. Shout out to Anwar El-Ghazi, who this week won his court case against wrongful dismissal. He was removed from his place in the squad at Mines, I believe it was, because a post he made in support of Palestine about a year ago. I mean, at the time, it was disgraceful that just saying that and supporting victims of a tragedy and of a genocide could get you released by your club. But either way, he's now won that case and donated it to Palestinian relief. Over in Spain, and Barcelona are getting ready to return to the new camp, and it'll mark only the second time that Lamine Yamal's ever played there. Yeah, it sounds like a stat that couldn't possibly be real, but the last time he played there was in one of his first games, and he genuinely looked about 9. Meanwhile in France, and how about this from AG Pavard, their goalkeeper scoring a bicycle kick late on in the game in a coup de France tie that they would then go on and win in a penalty shootout. And you guys know the score by now. This is a segment of the show where I bring you the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And we are heading down to Lydney Town. Yeah, it sounds like a non-league club, doesn't it? So I got the perfect name. Now I'll cut to the chase, right? The weather in England has not been that great recently. When is it ever? What you do hope is that you can at least play some football at your ground. Yeah, these lock hard. This is a football pitch. This is even waterlogged, fam. This is genuinely a water park. On to the weird stuff though now. We head over to France's 60th first of all for a ludicrous story of two teams playing a match and both of them losing. So there's been plenty of games, right, where you look at two teams play and you realise, fucking hell, I hate both of them. And you secretly hope that both teams can come out with 0 points. Well, that eventuality has actually happened in the 6th tier of France as SC Heroville played AG Khan. Now on the pitch, and there was very little questioning going on as to who actually had won this one, because SC Heroville won the game 7-1. However, they were stripped of the result due to transfer rules that they'd broken, and so the victory would be handed to AG Khan. Except the problem was AG Khan had fielded an ineligible player during this match, and therefore they were ineligible to win the game too. It meant that authorities in Normandy basically ruled that both clubs had lost instead. Very, very impressive. Like, all you've got to do is your job. Like, just read the terms and conditions. The final story is a wholesome one, and it comes from Chorley. Now, Christmas is, of course, coming up, and it's usually a time where you get the chance to go and see family, maybe family that you've not seen in a while, but everyone comes together, has a massive fuck-off roast, and then goes home. And there's, like, some presents and stuff in there as well, allegedly. But that's not always the case for everybody on Christmas. There are some people that aren't able to see family, there are some that maybe don't have family, or maybe just feeling a little bit alone over the Christmas period, which can happen and is completely out of some people's hands. Well, Chorley last year offered up their stadium as a place that fans who were feeling a little bit lonely in the area could go and mingle and chat to like-minded Chorley fans, or just footballing fans generally speaking. Well, they confirmed they're going to be doing it again this year. So if that does appeal to you, you live in the local area, then make sure to head on down. That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.
Now, it's actually been a while since I talked about a year in football. And I know that you guys like it when I break down an entire season of football, but sometimes it does take long. So today, we're talking about a season that I fondly remember. 1966 season, when Arsenal won the Europa League. But in all seriousness, we're talking about the 2018/19 season in this video. A campaign that saw miraculous comebacks and historic trophy wins, including one of the deadest Champions League finals in the history of the sport. Now, the summer of 2018 set the tone for what we were about to witness in this campaign, with some earth-shattering transfers, like a galaxy punch from God, with the biggest bombshell being Cristiano Ronaldo moving from Real Madrid to Juventus for 112 million euros. He would end his era in Madrid that saw him become the club's greatest of all time. And with Madrid failing to replace his star power, their notable signings would be the likes of Thibaut Courtois from Chelsea, a guy that would mark his name in Real Madrid folklore. And this pattern of transfer would also lead to Chelsea spending 80 million euros on Kepa. Yes, Arrizabalaga. Whilst also Liverpool would address their goalkeeping worries, bringing in Alisson. This transfer window was just a transfer window for goalkeepers. All the best keepers were moving here and there. But some other major moves that happened was the likes of Riyad Mahrez moving to Manchester City, joining them for around £60 million from Leicester City. Maurizio Sarri would also join Chelsea as their manager and bring along Jorginho, a guy that he would use during his days at Napoli. Arsenal would be beginning their post-Wenger era, an era that honestly sent me into the ultimate stage of depression. Hairline receding, stressed every week. Even to this day, I'm stressed when watching Arsenal, and we win every single game. Because ever since this era had ended, we don't really see fun football anymore. It's misery for me. I'm watching Arsenal win, and I'm still upset. Let's not talk about me though. Even though this is my YouTube channel, I can't even talk about my own feelings on this channel. Because people, they don't want to hear it. Unai Emery would take the helm for Arsenal, and ultimately, we would see what would happen with him at Arsenal. Oh my god. Now, before we actually get into this video, I just dropped the first ever season of the GgNoRaGe merchandise line. Now, I don't know if that was a cool way to announce that I have merch now, but I have merch now. You can go to GgNoRaGe.store, go check out the designs. If you're a One Piece fan, you will enjoy the designs. It's only the first season, so each season, like every 2-3 months, I'm going to be making more designs myself and videos. It will hopefully benefit the channel, because a lot of these videos, because I use so much footage of actual football, they get copyrighted, so I don't actually make a lot of money off them. So I guess this can kind of help. There should be products just below the video that you can check out, and also I'll be wearing them in future videos, and you can just go to the store and see. If you follow me on Instagram, you can, be up to date with all the new designs and stuff like that and what they're inspired by. And of course, let's just actually get on to the proper video. Some other weird deals that we would see would be Higuain making a loan move to AC Milan for Bonucci to make a swap deal to go back to Juventus. Barcelona would also add some mediocrity into their side, bringing in the likes of Malcolm, Arthur, Arturo Vidal. This was a poor era for Barcelona fans. And as the early season kicked off, we would see some struggles and surprises. By August, the likes of Manchester City had rocketed into the top of the table, with Liverpool having the exact record as them, with them both being unbeaten out of the gates. Chelsea also started quite brightly before Arsenal, they kind of stumbled out of the gates, losing their first 2 games before ultimately finding their feet. With Unai Emery's Arsenal going on a 14-game unbeaten run, after this poor spell that they had at the start. Over in Manchester, some chaos was brewing as Jose Mourinho had led Manchester United to their worst start in 28 years. And obviously, in recent times, their worst start could get even worse with Ruben Amorim, but Mourinho did it first, so how about that? Including a 3-0 home loss to Tottenham, which had, quotes from Jose Mourinho said, respect, if you guys remember. And tensions would just further boil with Manchester United losing 3-1 to Liverpool. And after a bunch of losses, Jose Mourinho would ultimately be sacked, with the caretaker manager being Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. In Spain, Real Madrid were feeling the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo, especially after hiring Lopetegui as their manager. And having Lopetegui as manager was honestly a humiliation ritual. This was a guy that was dismissed by Spain, just before getting a job at Real Madrid. And it would be capped off by a massive humiliation in El Clasico against Barcelona, losing 5-1. And in this same game, Luis Suarez would come out with a hat-trick. That result would drop Real Madrid to 9th on the table, and ultimately Lopetegui would be kicked out the front door and said, please, just don't ever come back. And with Lopetegui losing his job, it would be Santiago Solari that would step in and take the lead. Promoting the likes of Vinicius Jr. from the academy, ultimately, Real Madrid were not looking like the side that we know them for now. Meanwhile, Barcelona and Lionel Messi had hit their stride at the top of La Liga. Elsewhere, Borussia Dortmund had just bursted out of the blocks in Germany. With their new coach, Lucien Favre, well, I don't really know how to pronounce the name, but Lucien would be toying with his new young squad, including a thrilling 21-year-old Jadon Sancho, who is taking the Bundesliga by storm, helping Borussia Dortmund go unbeaten in the first half of the season and also get about 7 points ahead of Bayern Munich at one point, with Bayern Munich under the likes of Niko Kovac struggling to keep up. In Italy, Juventus started in fine fashion, with Ronaldo helping Juventus be unbeaten throughout the start. With Napoli being the only other team that were trying to compete for the Scudetto, Juventus looked like they were just strolling to the win. But one surprise in the Serie A this season would be Fabio Quagliarella, who was on a goal-scoring tier of form for, I think it was Sampdoria, with him eventually leading the league with 26 goals this campaign. Over in France, it was business as usual, with PSG getting 14 straight wins. With an enormous lead in Ligue 1 by December, the likes of Neymar, Mbappe and Cavani were just dominating. And honestly, their season could just be wrapped up because, let's just do a little quiz for you guys. Who do you think won Ligue 1 in this season that we're talking about, 2018/19? Do you think it was A, PSG, B, PSG, C, PSG, or D, PSG? The answer is PSG. They would finish this season with 91 points, 16 ahead of second place. But one wholesome story that was happening in Ligue 1 this season was the revival of Lille. They had resurged into a power position thanks to the brilliance of Nicolas Pepe, sitting in second this season with the likes of AS Monaco imploding, with Monaco by this time being an established player, in Ligue 1. By winter, they were, battling relegation. Now, by December, the leagues were taking shape. In the Premier League, Liverpool and Manchester City were going neck to neck and battling it out at the top. But Barcelona top La Liga, Juventus top Serie A, and PSG, they already won Liga by the start of the league. In the Bundesliga, however, Borussia Dortmund was clinging on to a first place position with Bayern Munich on their tails. And as the season wore on into 2019, the Premier League became a two-horse race. Well, it was a two-horse race at the start, but we established now that it was only going to be these two that would win the league. One of them anyway. With Liverpool going unbeaten in 20 games and by the new year had a 7-point lead. But Manchester City showing their true royal status at this time in their club's history were hunting them down. And the pivotal moment came on January 3rd of 2019 when Manchester City beat Liverpool 2-1 at the Etihad. With the game being decided by the thinnest of margins, John Stones with a goal line clearance. And after that, City were just flawless. Pep Guardiola setting up his men in perfect fashion, winning their final 14 Premier League games. Winning, not going unbeaten. They won 14 out of 14. They said, nah, we're winning this Prem, including this clutch Vincent Kompany goal against Leicester. And it's not like Liverpool faltered in this race either, because they would finish with 97 points. In like 97% of Premier League seasons, if you get this amount of points, you win. But no, this would be the most ever points that a runner-up would receive in Premier League history. You can't finish in a higher amount of points and still, lose the league. It doesn't make sense. But this season, they did, because it wasn't enough, as Manchester City would clinch the league with 98 points. In what world do you get 97 points and not win the league? And the battle for the remaining top 4 spots in the Premier League also had its own drama, with Chelsea recovering from a mid-season wobble to finish 3rd, and Tottenham edging out their North London rivals Arsenal to finish 4th. And this was crazy because in the summer, Spurs bought absolutely no one, and Arsenal, who had been as high as 3rd by April, crumbled when it mattered the most, with Unai Emery's tenure being questioned by Arsenal fans around the world. At the bottom, the Premier League saw Huddersfield get relegated by March. So the one Huddersfield fan that is watching this, shout out to you. You got relegated by March. In Spain, Barcelona were crowned champions by late April, and honestly, going into this season, a lot of people knew. With the departure of a superstar in Cristiano Ronaldo and a depleting side, Real Madrid couldn't keep up with Barcelona. And of course, Atletico Madrid also were kind of in this category, not being able to compete with the brilliance that was Barcelona. Because Messi was in vintage form, scoring 36 league goals this season, helping himself win another Pichichi, golden boot, the Spanish golden boot. Maybe it's a golden shoe, I don't know. With Barcelona finishing with 87 points ahead of Atletico Madrid by 11 points. And Real Madrid would limp to 3rd with 68 measly points. With this league position ultimately leading to Solari getting the sack and Real Madrid bringing back Zinedine Zidane. In Italy, Juventus amassed over 90 points and of course won the Scudetto. 11 points clear of Napoli, with Cristiano Ronaldo bagging 21 league goals that season, but he didn't finish the top goal scorer. It was Quagliarella. Meanwhile, the Bundesliga gave us a proper title race, similar to the Premier League, but just not as many points. With Dortmund leading for much of the season, Bayern Munich had to play catch-up. And that's when their championship DNA kicked in. They realized who they were. Because during 2019, Bayern Munich would absolutely destroy Dortmund 5-0 in April. And by the end, they would edge Dortmund by just 2 points, with Bayern Munich on 78 and Dortmund on 76. With stars like Frank Ribery and Ian Robben getting a fairy tale ending. And of course, Robert Lewandowski would be the top goal scorer in the Bundesliga that year with 22 goals. And you know what we also need to talk about that happened that year? The Champions League. I don't know what happened this year. It was just a tournament of miracles, with sides that were not supposed to be involved getting involved and dominating against the big teams. Of course, Real Madrid were going through their worst spell, but to get dominated like they did in the round of 16 against Ajax just set the tempo for this competition. Because from the round of 16, this competition would just be pure cinema, with Real Madrid being absolutely shattered after winning 3 back-to-back European titles. They would be absolutely stunned by Ajax after winning the first leg 2-1 in Amsterdam. But in the return fixture, Ajax's youthful side that was filled with players that were just fearless went in and dismantled Real Madrid's team, producing one of the finest comebacks ever and a 10 out of 10 performance from Southampton Zidane. Yes, Dusan Tadic, who formerly played for Southampton, was biding his trade at Ajax. And in this game, at the Bernabeu, absolutely went toe-to-toe with every single Real Madrid player. From doing Zidane-like roulettes against the likes of Casemiro to putting in assists for his teammates. It was the likes of Tadic and Hakim Ziyech who would put on an absolute masterclass and help Ajax, win against Real Madrid, overturning the tie 5-3 on aggregate. Another round of 16 shocks saw Manchester United pull off a miracle against PSG, a PSG side that was again just dominant and rampant in their own league. In the French league, the likes of Neymar and Cavani were balling out, but also the surgence of Mbappe, getting 33 league goals as a teenager in football. This guy was running the show. But Manchester United, against a run of play after a 2-0 loss to PSG in the first leg, would pull it back in a second leg miracle, winning 3-1 and advancing on away goals thanks to a Rashford penalty. And while this was happening, Cristiano Ronaldo was reminding people of why he is that guy. Because now donning the black and white stripes of Juventus, his side would be 2-0 down against Atletico Madrid, a familiar foe. In Turin, Ronaldo would overturn the score by getting a hat-trick in the game, winning the game 3-0, and taunting Diego Simeone with the same celebration that Simeone did to Juventus fans, and also Ronaldo gesturing like this. And it was a bit dodgy, but Ronaldo just, again, does it wherever he goes. He terrorizes Atletico Madrid. Doesn't matter how haram their football is, Ronaldo will fix them. Elsewhere, Liverpool edged Bayern Munich 3-1. Honestly, made this side look old. I remember watching this and seeing Sadio Mane chip the ball at the Van Van Dijk scoring a header. It was just powerful. And then the likes of Manchester City would rack up a 7-0 demolition of Schalke, with the quarterfinals being locked and loaded with some big teams and also underdogs, with Tottenham, Ajax, Liverpool, Porto, Man City, Manchester United, Juventus and Barcelona. And again, this stage would provide pure entertainment. We had already seen drama in the round of 16, but no, the quarterfinals won up that. First of all, we had Manchester City versus Tottenham. English quarterfinal, a showdown that would commence absolutely brilliant, with the second leg of the Etihad becoming one of the most remarkable Champions League games that we had ever seen. Watch this live, understand the emotional turmoil that you would go through watching this. Because inside 21 minutes, the score was already 3-2. 4 goals scored in the first 11 minutes of the game. It was frantic, it was end-to-end, and it almost looked like this was some five-a-side football, but no, these teams were just going at it, with the likes of Heung-min Son just unlocking and awakening his devil. This guy was turned into a different beast this game, destroying every single shot that he took. We could barely catch our breath watching this, and by the 59th minute, City were 4-2 up thanks to Sergio Aguero, a strike that would make it 4-2 in the game, and 4-3 on aggregate. But Spurs would fight back in the form of Fernando Llorente, but the real drama would happen in stoppage time, with Raheem Sterling scoring a goal that ultimately looked like a last goal. The crowd had been absolutely crazy. Every fan that came to Tottenham was losing their mind. Pep Guardiola was going crazy. Everyone was just in bits. A last gasp winner had just rocked the entirety of football, but no. VAR had stepped in. VAR had intervened and disallowed the goal from offside. And honestly, this was one of the most controversial offsides in football history. Aguero had just been off in the build-up to this goal, but because of the reaction to the goal, it almost was like Man City had already won, and then this happened and everything was just happening in slow motion. Because the Etihad had just erupted like a volcano before being put out like a light. And right there and then, Spurs would advance via away goals 4-4, leaving Pep Guardiola on the floor looking depressed and Mauricio Pochettino looking chuffed, to say the least. Meanwhile, Ajax's fairy tale would continue against another big dog in Juventus, stunning them in Turin after a 1-1 in their first leg. Ajax would go to Juventus and win 2-1 thanks to their 19-year-old captain, Billy. A towering header would win the tie, eliminating Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo. And over in Catalonia, Barcelona had ended the Manchester United dream, thanks largely to some brilliance by Lionel Messi. And I remember watching this game. It was amazing to see, honestly, because these are two sides that have gone up against each other in history time and time again, but both being at weird points in their modern day history, they took on each other, and Messi just showed that he is timeless, dominating in the game, including a goal where he would nutmeg their head. And lastly, Liverpool would just swat aside Porto 6-1 on aggregate, setting up a heavyweight semi-final against Barcelona. And these semi-finals would be spoken about forever. I swear, the final of the competition was awful, but the build-up to this, like every single game from the round of 16 was amazing, because both of these semi-finals delivered legendary comebacks. First at Anfield, then in Amsterdam. Let's start with Liverpool versus Barcelona, which I think you guys have heard me talk about this multiple times on this channel, because this was a clash of titans, and in the first leg at the Camp Nou, it would be a rout. Barcelona would run riot against Liverpool, showing them their brilliance, winning 3-0 with the likes of Messi and Suarez scoring, with Messi bagging a 35-yard free kick in the game. And during some of their celebrations after winning 3-0, some of the Barcelona players would go up to Liverpool players and make fun of them. But going into a second leg, anything could happen at Anfield. And something definitely did happen over in Merseyside, because the Reds would defy logic to win 4-0 against Barcelona at home. Without two of their star forwards in Firmino and Mohamed Salah, they would do the unthinkable, with the likes of Divock Origi stepping up early in the game to score the first goal. Then in the second half, substitute Wijnaldum would score 2 goals in like 2 minutes, erasing the deficit and setting the Kop into delirium. Everyone was losing their minds. And that's when in the 79th minute the famous moment would happen, where Liverpool were given a corner and Trent would take the corner quickly.
I don't want to alarm you, but there may be a corner.
Acting as if he was going to whip it long, he would run quickly, take it quick, and it would go into the path of Origi, who would be switched on at the right time in the right place, putting the ball into the back of the net and setting the tone. A tone that would boil up the Anfield fans and just set it off. It was like a prop. Boiling off and steaming away, these fans had just gone crazy. Liverpool had forced the greatest comeback in Champions League history. Well, their recent Champions League history, because they are part of how many great comebacks in their club's history. And as if that wasn't enough, we would also experience the miracle of Amsterdam. And no, that isn't some dodgy club that some of you guys watching this would go to. This was a miracle that involved Ajax and Tottenham. Ajax had won 1-0 in London after the first leg. Going into a second leg, the tension was still high. But this was at Ajax's home, Amsterdam. It was going to be easy. And in that second leg, it looked easy. Storming to a 2-0 lead by half-time, the Ajax players looked comfy. They were leading 3-0 on aggregate. By this time, they should be putting on their slippers and just passing the ball about for the rest of the game. They had made it into a final, right? And it was true, because Spurs looked dead and buried. This team had no hope. But Lucas Moura decided that he was not going to have this nonsense. He put on a cape. He walked into battle. And he said, you know what? I'm just going to take this war and make it my own. I'm taking on every single person. I'm doing it solo. He hopped into a ranked lobby and soloed every single person, producing a performance for the ages, and one that I would actually talk about in a 10 out of 10 performances in football video. A couple of years back now, dragging Tottenham back, he would score 2 goals in 5 minutes, making it 2-0 on the night, but Tottenham was still behind on aggregate. The tension becoming unbearable, Ajax were holding on at this point, with young captain De Ligt and Onana making crucial interventions. But in the 95th minute of the game, deep into stoppage time, everything would change, because Spurs would hoof the ball upfield, and suddenly this ball was bouncing and headed on and went into the path of Lucas Moura. And Lucas Moura would do it was written, completing a hat-trick and also completing a comeback for Spurs. Literally, with the final kick of the game, this guy put the ball into the back of the net and sent the entirety of the stadium into a frenzy. Spurs manager Mauricio Pochettino was literally in tears, and honestly, this moment would put Lucas Moura in the history of Tottenham forever, even though their fates were sealed, because they would go into a final against Liverpool, who were in tip-top shape. The final being an English affair that was hosted in Madrid and honestly was quite underwhelming, if I'm being honest, because it was Tottenham versus Liverpool and a lot of people knew that this result would go Liverpool's way, and it got even worse because early on in the game there was a challenge that just made the fixture predictable. With it being only 2 minutes into the game, Liverpool would receive a penalty that would be blasted home and that would set the tone for the entire game. Divock Origi, however, would establish himself as a cult hero in football by scoring the second goal for Liverpool in the night and also a Champions League final goal. But honestly, there was a bunch of other things that went into this game that kind of annoyed me because Lucas Moura having a hat-trick in a semi-final, then not getting started in the final was ridiculous to me. Honestly, you had to play him in that game. Even if you squeezed him into the starting lineup with Harry Kane, it would have made a big difference for me. And not only did we have an all-English tie in the Champions League, but in the Europa League, it was another all-English tie. But honestly, this was more exciting. Not really. It was Chelsea versus Arsenal in a Europa League final in Baku, Azerbaijan. And Maurizio Sarri's Chelsea men absolutely schooled Unai Emery's Arsenal, beating Arsenal 4-1 after a goalless first half, with the likes of Olivier Giroud and Pedro scoring and also Eden Hazard just balling out, this being his last, I think, game for Chelsea before making a move to Real Madrid and just ending the rest of his career. And I guess this kind of counts for this season too, but we would also see Portugal win the Nations League. And a few weeks after the Nations League, the African Cup of Nations would commence too. And this would be a bit of history for Algeria as they would win against Sadio Mane's Senegal. Just like how the Premier League race ended, Riyad Mahrez had one-upped Sadio Mane at AFCON too. Brazil would win Copa America, defeating Peru on home soil, and honestly, this season would be an unexpectedly S-tier season. Like, it was really good. It was one of them seasons that was completely overlooked because the biggest games weren't the most fun, but the games that went into it were fun. Like, the title race in the Premier League and the Bundesliga was great. Seeing Real Madrid not be at the peak of their powers and fall into a downfall was crazy to see. A new Juventus side that was injected by the likes of Ronaldo was fun to see. Champions League ties that saw comebacks late on in games was legendary and they will go down in history. But the finals weren't the most memorable. But what did you think of the 2018/19 season? You guys let me know in the comments below, and also tell me a season that you want me to cover in a future video just like this.
Does anybody else remember those 7 random South American guys that popped up out of nowhere and then suddenly debuted for the Malaysian national team? Well, it turns out at least some of them might not actually be Malaysian. Now, people have looked into this. The players have been suspended, and so has the Malaysian Football Association. And I'm going to read some of the details here today, but I'm just going to say now. The fans seem to be panicking a little bit, maybe in response to the heavy recruitment we're seeing from Indonesia and even the Philippines now, and they said, look, we got to do something. And so in come these players, they immediately start for the Malaysian national team, and they pick up a couple decent results, and everybody's happy. The only problem being, they might not actually be Malaysian. Y'all can see the article here. So the FIFA Disciplinary Committee has sanctioned the FAM and the players themselves for breaches of Article 22 concerning forgery and falsification. Does that mean that they faked birth certificates? Does that mean that they faked family trees? I'm not sure exactly what this means. We don't really have any more details. In fact, the only response I can find online is one of the players came out and said, like, yeah, one of my documents got messed up. It's no big deal. But this report states that the FAM used doctored documentation to get these guys in the team and registered. Now, before we go any further, if you all like videos about Asian football, if you're a fan of the AFC, if you're from the AFC, and you want to see more of my videos covering the region, make sure you hit subscribe, because I'm starting to do much more of these current event-style videos around Asian football. I love Asian football. I talk about it all the time. We got round 4 very, very soon. I have plenty of videos for that, and Asian Cup qualification again, which will ironically involve Malaysia. So again, if you don't want to miss that, hit subscribe. So the FAM's been sanctioned, the players have been sanctioned, the players have been suspended for a year, and the FIFA Football Tribunal is going to investigate these documents. Now, what could potentially happen to Malaysia if this is true? Number one, and I think the most damning thing, is that reputationally this team is going to get ripped to shreds, and rightfully so. And I have a very strong opinion on this. International football to me is very sacred, and I don't like when these nations go on a recruitment spree like they're a Division I American football team, and they're just trying to stack the roster with as many descendant players as possible. It doesn't sit right with me. I understand why some teams do it. I don't lose sleep at night because it happens, but I don't like it. I think in an ideal world, Jack's perfect world, which doesn't exist, all the players come from the domestic leagues, or at least most of them come from the domestic leagues, and then, you plug and play a couple spots here and there in the starting 11 where you need from foreign-born players. That's my diatribe, okay? That's my strong opinion on here. And I think for the FAM to knowingly have registered non-Malaysian players is the most insulting thing to the Malaysian populace that they could ever do. You are taking opportunities from actual Malaysians, grew up in Malaysia, played in the Malaysian youth teams, to represent their country because you want to go recruit a random Argentine with a potential great Malaysian grandmother to play for your team. And this brings back the whole moral question that I talk about even with Indonesia sometimes. At what cost do you want to be good? You want to qualify for the World Cup? At what cost? You want to be fielding 7 out of 11 players who are not actually Malaysian. So you don't even care about Malaysian culture. You don't care about the advancement of Malaysian sports. You don't care about the advancement of Malaysian sporting infrastructure. You just want anybody, for me even, as long as I'm wearing the Malaysian national team crest on my chest, at a World Cup, you consider that a win. You disgust me. I think you are the scum of the footballing earth for anybody who thinks like that. You are wiping your ass with the sacred part of international football, why it is more important and why it is more special than club football, because this is not supposed to be something you can just fix by being a wealthy owner. This is not something you can just fix by recruiting whoever you want from South America to come play for you. And if this is true, then I want FIFA to bring the freaking hammer down on Malaysia. And it's not because I dislike Malaysia. I actually really like Malaysia. Arif Aiman is one of my favorite young ballers in all of Asia, regardless of nationality. So do not throw false accusations at me that I hate Malaysia and I want to see them down bad. I wanted to see them in the knockouts of the Asian Cup. I want to see them at the next Asian Cup, but not if you're going to cheat. Not if you're going to do it like this. Not if you're going to destroy the integrity of your federation and of your national team. And you know what? You got enough talent to qualify without these guys. That's the greatest irony of this entire crap. You recruited these guys to help you in Asian Cup qualifying, and of course, for the next round of World Cup qualifying. But you already qualified for the last Asian Cup without them. So what are you doing? Again, it's like the greed of these federations knows no limits. You've already proven that you can get there. It just happened. You drew South Korea 3-3 in a group stage game without any of these guys. What are you doing? What are you doing? You have some exciting young players who are actually Malaysian. Why don't you give them a chance? Why don't you give them a chance? Instead, you're gonna get some Brazilians in here. Oh, who are you? The UAE? This is Malaysia. You got a massive population. You have a football crazed populace. Use it. Tap into it. Invest in your own people. Not do this slimy backdoor stuff. Oh, Yeah, dude, man, it makes me sick and it makes me really sad. And I really feel for the Malaysian fans who probably watched that 4-0 beatdown in Vietnam and were like, oh my gosh, these are my people. That's what you're supposed to feel when you're watching international football. You're supposed to say, these are my people. This is tribal. This is literally tribalism. This is not inclusivity center, okay? This is not, let's make our national team as diverse as possible. Diverse of what? They should all be Malaysian. They should all be Indonesian. They should all be Mexican. They should all be Japanese. As long as they're that, then who gives a damn? It's the same thing with the Olympics. You want people from your country representing you at the Olympics because they represent your entire culture. It's not just the flag that they have on their back. It's so much more than that, and I don't know how people don't understand this. But anyways, I feel bad for the Malaysians who saw this team taking some good. They got a new manager in. I don't even know if they've lost a game. They tied Cape Verde, who a very strong team in Africa. They have a great resume recently, and now it looks like it was all built on lies. And that would piss me off. That would really, really piss me off. If I was Malaysian, I'd have a hard time trusting my federation again. So that's the moral argument of why I hate this. And you know what? Any Indonesians watching, did you hear what I just said? Can you stop saying that I hate you? Please? Can you stop saying that I want to see Indonesia fail because you guys are Indonesian? Can we please stop that narrative? I just don't like this. Speaking of Indonesia, though, the greatest irony is who was clowning Indonesia a lot for the recruitment they were doing. It was all of Southeast Asia, maybe even all of Asia, but including Malaysia. So you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite and a liar, potentially. So you're far worse than the Indonesian FA. At least in the Indonesian FA, these guys have an actual Indonesian dad or an Indonesian grandpa. No falsified documents that I know of as of time of recording, but you had to go and do that. So you're pointing the finger saying, shame on you, you guys are doing it the wrong way. And then you do it even worse, not in terms of volume, but in terms of integrity. So, yeah, like I said, Malaysian reputationally in the mud. The citizens of Malaysia should feel so insulted. It's insulting to the players. It's insulting to the manager if he didn't know about this. It's insulting to the project of 2027 Asian Cup. Here's the bomb. And here's what could potentially happen. And I'm really curious to see what will happen. Malaysia could be suspended from the Asian Cup, y'all. They might not play in the Asian Cup. If you guys remember, Timor-Leste was banned.
Swedish international, Eritrean Thierry Henry, is really that guy. You know, let's not be acting like this is not the best striker in the league right now. This is a striker that every big side in the world should be looking at. And if we're being honest, Newcastle should be looking to just bolster their attack. Because right now, they have Isak, they have Anthony Gordon, and if they were to get a world-class right winger, that could be an amazing trio. Now, we've spoken about one Swedish striker, but I think it's time to talk about the Swedish Hannibal Lecter, a guy that has been feasting on defenders for about 2 seasons now. He is proving every doubter wrong, and I am one of them. From lacing up his boots for Coventry City, he made a drastic change in his career to play for Sporting in Portugal. And since then, he has massively stepped up in every aspect of his game. And since joining Sporting CP in 2023, some of his stats have actually been unreal. In the 23/24 season, he scored 43 goals in 50 appearances. Then this season, as of making this video, he's got 32 goals in 30 appearances. You know, these are the type of numbers you get when you buy, you know, a world-class striker on career mode and you're playing on like professional difficulty. Like, come on, man, get out of that league. Would he be able to replicate some of these stats in the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue 1? Take away Ligue 1. Yeah, take away Ligue 1. But even when watching this guy in the Champions League, he is the real deal. I remember a goal he scored a few months back against Lille. The ability to just turn a man and just finish off so seamlessly is something that not all strikers can do. And to be able to be this big, but this nimble on the feet to do that is something that, you know, Premier League fans haven't seen before. You know, he's not coming in with a skinny build like Alexander Isak. This is a guy that's built rivals Erling Haaland, but his game style is totally different. Averaging 1.93 progressive take-ons per 90 and over 10 progressive passes per 90 minutes too. I am dying to see this guy play for a big team in one of the top 5 leagues. This has to happen this summer, because I think then we will have a bunch of strikers that are really taking on the helm as being world class. And whilst we're on the topic of world class strikers, none other does it like Erling Haaland. Even though this guy has been on one of the worst runs of form in his entire career, he is still like the top goal scorer in the Premier League. And that's because he was so great at the start of the season. And now all of a sudden, he's been written off. Well, no. Here on the Jib Rules channel, we don't just write off players due to form. We actually appreciate everyone. This guy is a bagsman. In 21 games this season, he scored 16 goals and got 1 assist as well, equating to a goal every 1.3 matches. Haaland also set a record of scoring 75 goals in 77 games, a record that took Alan Shearer, the top goal scorer in the Premier League of all time, 93 games. And despite his inconsistencies throughout the start of this season, Haaland was still the top goal scorer in the entirety of 2024 in the Premier League, scoring 27 goals and highlighting his individual brilliance. But at the moment, his side isn't playing the best, but it doesn't mean that we're just going to write off the impact of Erling Haaland. Now, unlike many of you watching this video, I have actually never watched, R9 play a full 90 minutes live. I've only gone back and watched games of him playing and seen his brilliance. I watched the entirety of the 2002 World Cup just to, see every goal, and I made an entire video about it. But still, his career actually comes across as some sort of fever dream. Because growing up, I didn't even know that he was some legendary player. Me in the playground, we just thought, oh, Fat Ronaldo. This guy, who's this? I know Cristiano. I don't know Fat Ronaldo. But when you look back at the discography, what he accomplished in such a short span of a peak in his career, whilst, fighting nearly career-ending injuries. Moving from Cruzeiro in Brazil to PSV in the Eredivisie, this guy's transition was seamless. From 1994, after joining PSV, he scored 54 goals in 57 games across the span of 2 seasons. Then in the 96/97 season, he made a big move to Barcelona, scoring 47 goals in 49 games. Because of his season with Barcelona, he went on to win the Ballon d'Or, the best player in the world. He was younger than 21. This is not real at all. This is FIFA. This is Pro Evolution Soccer become a legend. And this peak in his career felt like a dream because it only just got better. After Barcelona, again, he made a move, flying over to Milan to play for Inter from 1997 all the way to 2002, with many moments marked by sheer brilliance. In his first season, he scored 34 goals. Then in the 98 World Cup, again, his performances were legendary, scoring 4 goals and getting 3 assists whilst leading Brazil to a final. And then of course, where the peak hit its tippy top in the 2002 World Cup, after recovering one of the worst injuries that could have even ended his career, he came back, led Brazil single-handedly, winning top goal scorer, and won the entire competition by himself. But then after that, after 2002, the decline was just steady in his career. And I think it does go down to a lot of things, including injuries, hypothyroidism. R9's peak was so extraordinary that it almost seems mythical. He is honestly one of the biggest what could have been in football. Another player that is also in the same category when it comes to players that don't feel real is Marco van Basten. Similarly to R9, I grew up in an era where I did not see Van Basten play. But whenever I'm told or get to see some of the spectacular things that he accomplished in his career, I almost think, how did this guy exist? This is not real. A striker that played throughout the 80s, he was the pinnacle in his position. One of the original Flying Dutchmen whose career started at Ajax, where he scored 152 goals in 172 games, including 37 in the 85-86 season, which led him to win the European Golden Boot. But then he makes a move from Ajax to another powerhouse in European football, Milan, marking the beginning of a golden era. Alongside the likes of Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard, he formed this incredible Dutch trio that again would go on to dominate European football. And it was this that led to a peak that almost feels like a fever dream. In the 1988-89 season, he had one of his greatest individual campaigns. That season was also the Euros, and he scored that iconic volley that I think every football fan has seen. A volley that was literally scored against USSR. The USSR, bro. This ain't real. Van Basten also won 3 Ballon d'Or awards in 1988, 1989 and 1992, whilst also leading AC Milan to win back-to-back European Cups in 1989 and 1990. But again, this is one of these guys that had this peak and then injuries just chronically hit him. He suffered a bunch of ankle injuries that slowly but surely led to the decline of his career, playing his last game at 28 years old and retiring at 31. Now, a player that I actually do remember now, we have to talk about Alexandre Pato. He was one of the rising prodigies during his early career. He was playing in the Brazilian league before being snapped up by AC Milan, making a move in 2007 for around 22 million euros, making him at the time one of the most expensive teenagers in history. And again, his peak years would actually feel like a fever dream. In the 2009-10 season, Pato scored 14 goals in 23 Serie A games, including a brace against Real Madrid in the Champions League. He also scored a goal against Barcelona in the 2011-12 Champions League, which everyone remembers, and I think they just know him from that goal. But again, it was these recurring injuries, muscle injuries, that slowly affected the downfall and the decline of his career. He had this trajectory to be one of the best young strikers in football. But then what? We never heard from him again. This was a lightning fast striker that had the world at his feet once he moved to Milan. But unfortunately, his career just does not feel real at all. And another guy that had a peak that did not seem real to me is Bas Dost. I remember him playing for Sporting one season and scoring like 40 goals in a season. Genuinely. Bas Dost, he was playing in the German league. Then he randomly came up at Sporting and he was just bagging goals. This was Gyökeres before Gyökeres. Matteo Retegui this season has been an absolute revelation for Atalanta, currently having the highest GA in the Serie A with 21 goals and 3 assists. The Argentinian-born Italian striker is thriving under Gasperini. He's slowly but surely turning into one of the most clinical strikers in football right now. And, that might say a lot about strikers in football, but I did make a whole different video about that. But we have to pay the respect when the respect is due, because you don't just get to the top scorers of the Serie A just by being mediocre. You have to have some X factor about you. And I think one performance that kind of exemplifies that he has that X factor was the game between Atalanta and Juventus. He has been immense this season, and I think his play has been enhanced by the likes of Ademola Lookman and De Catalare, who have been either side of him. Because not only does he linger around in the box, but he can drop deep, receive the ball, and do link-up play with his wingers. But you guys know me. I'm not too quick to gas up strikers. I need to see more of Retegui. He might be the top scorer this season, but I've seen it before. I've seen Piatek be the top scorer, or, go on this amazing run of form in the Serie A, and then just completely disappear off the face of the earth. I need to see a bit more from Retegui, do it in the big games that are in, the Champions League, etc., which, of course, Atalanta are out. So, better luck next season. Another generational run that we have to talk about is from a snake. Robin van Persie, during the 2011 to 12 season, was insane. He had one of the most phenomenal final seasons of a player I've ever seen. And I was there. As an Arsenal fan, I witnessed this. This guy slapped 30 Premier League goals during that season for Arsenal, achieving the Golden Boot while getting no titles that year, only helping Arsenal to secure a Champions League spot. During this season, you saw him hit all these different shots, his iconic volleys being just the tip of the iceberg. Robin van Persie was iconic. And then through making this amazing legacy at Arsenal, we thought next season, let's make a dive for the league. If Van Persie is going to keep up this form, we got to keep going. And then we find out he's moved to Old Trafford. As an Arsenal fan, I was broken. I was on my knees. You look back at that season and see how he replicated that exact run of form for Arsenal to Man United, becoming one of the main guys. Batman being Rooney, Robin being Van Persie. They took over the league. And for these 2 seasons, I think Van Persie was the best player in the entire league. Widely considered one of the greatest strikers of all time, Suarez racked up over 500 career goals during his prime, winning 2 European Golden Shoes in 2014 and 2016. He remains the only player to win a Golden Boot in La Liga, while Messi and Ronaldo were going through their prime years, just showing his impact on not only La Liga, but football in general. This was a striker that had a powerful shot, but a remarkable technical ability too, which we first really saw on display during his prime years at Liverpool. And it was at Liverpool where he would really start to dominate games. In 2014, ending the Premier League season with 31 goals, which would eventually prompt Barcelona to spend big money on the Uruguayan striker. And in Spain, he would just replicate his form, being a part of a treble-winning side in 2015, alongside the likes of Messi and Neymar. Leading La Liga during this time in both goals and assists, he showed that he was not just some background character. He was the guy that was making things happen as the striker. I'm telling you, in terms of an all-round forward that represents the 2010s so perfectly, no one really comes close to Suarez. Being able to drop in deep and just create a chance for himself, he showed signs of the peak strikers from the 2000s, the same ilk as the likes of R9 and Thierry Henry. These strikers that could just do it all and win a game by themselves. At times he was controversial and arguably someone that a lot of people hated, yet when it comes to just analysing his ability on a football pitch, you cannot deny that this guy is an all-timer. And alongside him, another striker that kind of led the 2010s is Robert Lewandowski, a Polish striker that is actually still thriving for one of the best teams in football right now, and in the season that we just finished, scored over 40 goals in all competitions. Yes, the longevity is insane. He turned goal scoring into an art form throughout his career, being eventually dubbed Lewandowski by not only Thomas Müller, but by a lot of football fans. And it's weird because we saw him go from a raw prospect at Dortmund to being the best striker in world football and dominating the Bundesliga for years with Bayern Munich. He tallied 309 club goals during the 2010s, which was only beaten out by the likes of Messi and Ronaldo. And he was one of these strikers that combined a lot of the older traits of a classic number 9 and brought it in to the modern game. The height, the strength, the aerial ability, and the two-footedness. He had it all, which honestly made him lethal when it came to poaching and being in the right place at the right time and finishing the ball into the back of the net. But at times, where we only put him in this box of being a poacher, he showed us that he wasn't just that, scoring some long ranges during his time, adapting his game and scoring free kicks, and again, continuously, season after season, proving people that doubt him wrong. Since the 2010s, he's now crossed over 700 career goals, whilst also winning FIFA's Best Player of the Year twice and kind of being robbed of a Ballon d'Or campaign back in 2020. And of course, these two guys are the ones that I'm going to mention first. But who are the other strikers that were reaching to become one of the best during this era too? I think the first name that comes to my mind is Kun Aguero. Now, Aguero spent the majority of the 2010s becoming a Premier League hero and legend of Manchester City, becoming the club's all-time scorer in the league with 184 goals. He etched his name into football history through brilliant moments marked by his goals. And it wasn't just Manchester City where he thrived also. It was when he was at Atletico Madrid before the move too. He was one of these strikers that was just remarkably consistent throughout his entire career, getting 20+ league goals in 5+ seasons, winning the Golden Boot in the 2014/15 season and winning 5 Premier League titles. And you also have to take into account that this was in a Manchester City side that was slowly evolving into a game where they didn't really require strikers as much. In and out of the side during the tail end of his Manchester City career, he would still pop up at big moments and score goals. And again, another caveat to this is that he had consistent injuries, where they would pop up randomly throughout each and every season. And despite this, he still averaged the best minute per goal ratio of any striker, averaging a goal every 108 minutes. And what made him stand out so much to me is that this was not the biggest of strikers, standing less than 5'9" in height, yet his ability on the pitch resembled a classic number 9. And there are few strikers in Premier League history that can change a game as quick as Kun Aguero. And from one striker that averaged over 15 goals per season for his entire career to another striker that loves the number 15. Let's quickly give our flowers to Karim Benzema. In my opinion, Benzema is the ultimate slow burn superstar because time and time again, he was overshadowed by the brilliance of the Ronaldos, the Bales, and all the superstars that played for Real Madrid during the prime years. Yet his trajectory during the 2010s is completely underappreciated, and that's because he blossomed quite late in the decade, playing most of the early 2010s as a selfless striker that would offer up opportunities to those around him. But he knew what this all meant. He knew that this play style would win him trophies, and that's what they did. And even though he was seen as this generous striker that was giving opportunities to those around him, he still amassed an amazing, collection of goals during the 2010s. But when Ronaldo left in 2018, he stepped it up a notch, turning into this 30-goal-a-season talisman and a guy that was actually a predator in the box. He's a predator just around the 18-yard box. He was scoring goals for fun. And from a striker that thrived in Spain to one that made his name known in France. Let's talk about Zlatan Ibrahimovic and his impact on strikers during the 2010s. Now, Zlatan's 2010 journey is stuff of myth, something like an ancient legend. This is a story of many different changes throughout a career, sufficing in a bunch of goals. Because the King strutted across Europe and scored goals in each and every league that he stepped in. Winning titles in 4 different leagues, he showed that he was impactful wherever he went. And by the end of the decade, he had tallied over 570 career goals. The Swedish striker must have been built in a factory, being 6'4" tall, but with the agility of a 5'8", little midfielder, achieving 30+ goal seasons in 6 campaigns. And when I say he could do it all, he could do it all. Karate kicks, acrobatic finishes, 30-yard screamers, headers in the box, poacher goals. He had 5-star skill moves on FIFA at one point. I was baffed. And for a moment during his tenure there, he was PSG's all-time top goal scorer. And it's weird because he could do everything that a classic target man could do, but more. Imagine a guy with a 6'5" frame playing like a false 9. That's what Ibra during his prime could do. He would lead PSG to 4 straight Liga titles from 2013 and would be a pioneer in the club, changing their legacy. And even at 35 years old, he would make a move to Manchester United in 2016/17 and score 28 goals, leading them to a Europa League title. Of course, people always talk about his Champions League legacy and the fact that he never won it, but in my opinion, he's still regarded as one of the best strikers during this time, but a striker that was honestly a lone ranger, a lone warrior that was on his own journey and never really sought to be approved of. Because as he said himself, a lion doesn't compare himself to humans. And from one striker that has an abundance of trophies with league domination to one that only just got his flowers recently, winning his first trophy just last season. Let's talk about Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane established himself as one of the best strikers in football during the mid-2010s. Playing for Tottenham Hotspur, he won back-to-back Golden Boots in the 2015/16 season and 16/17. By 2020, he had amassed over 150 Premier League goals, and he was really making waves as a guy that was leading a side that was not supposed to be where they were positioned. And I think this is what stood out to me alongside with his well-rounded gameplay. He was a pure finisher that was able to play make and also had an amazing aerial ability. A sight that as an Arsenal fan I saw way too often, because time and time again this guy would score against my club. And if it wasn't a penalty, it would just be a banger. And I'm only really mentioning him in this video because this is where we first saw the promise of Harry Kane, going from a prospect into an established world-class striker in the league. But in my opinion, his peak years have come in the 2020s. He also holds the record for the most Premier League goals in a calendar year, being 39. But all in all, when it comes to Harry Kane, I think the only tarnish on his resume was the fact that he was never able to win silverware during his golden years at Tottenham Hotspur. But when talking about another English striker that had a firm grasp on this decade, we have to mention Wayne Rooney. Because Wayne Rooney is a striker that bridged generations, with his peak taking place in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And you didn't even have to watch football to know that this guy was a superstar. Being on the cover of FIFA year in and year out, you just knew that this guy was a bagsman. During his peak years, he solidified his status as an all-time Manchester United and England great, being United's top goal scorer of the decade until his departure in 2017. He finished off his career there with 208 Premier League goals, only behind Alan Shearer. He would man his trade as not only Manchester United's number 9, but also a guy that could adapt and be a number 10. Slowly over the years, his game evolved and he took more of a back seat, but during his prime years, he was an aggressive, all-action striker that could take the game to any team in football. From breaking out onto the scene back in Euro 2004 to being an established player that is written in the history books for Manchester United, Wayne Rooney will forever be a great and has a legacy that people completely overlook time and time again when just talking about strikers and players during this era. And it's each of these strikers that brought something different to this role. But it's not just them that made it their own, because there are a handful of other strikers that played during the 2010s that also were standout players. Van Persie was one of the most clinical strikers of this generation, with his, goal-scoring ability peaking in the early 2010s, winning back-to-back Golden Boots in 2012 with Arsenal and in 2013 with Manchester United. In 2012 with Arsenal, he went on a generational run, scoring some of the best goals you would see in any catalogue of any striker. And then he made a move to Manchester United, and in his first season helped them win the league. A silky first touch and a distinct way in which he struck the ball. This guy is iconic to a lot of people's childhoods growing up. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, before his stint at Arsenal, was also a speed demon and one of the most feared strikers in the Bundesliga, bringing a pace that we hadn't seen before to this position, a raw ability, terrorizing defenses in the Bundesliga for Dortmund, and then kind of replicating his game and bringing that to Arsenal despite them being in a rocky period. In 2016/17, he scored 31 Bundesliga goals, edging Lewandowski in a fierce Golden Boot race. He was pivotal to this attack and formed an amazing duo with Marco Reus. And even when moving to Arsenal, he would win a Golden Boot in the 2018/19 season and would be a key part of an FA Cup run that saw him score goals against the likes of Manchester City. Mario Mandzukic was this warrior-like forward that may not have scored you 30 plus a season, but had an immense impact on any club he played for. The Croatian is known for his Champions League final goals with Bayern in 2013 and Juventus in 2017, with the latter featuring an audacious bicycle kick that goes down as one of the best all-time Champions League final goals. Mandzukic's game was defined by his aggression and off-the-ball work. Pairing this with his aerial prowess, he was unstoppable at times and a key piece in a lot of teams that he played for, with major moments for club and also country. In the 2018 World Cup, I remember a goal that he scored for Croatia, when they were deep in their run. And another comparable striker to him during this time is Edin Dzeko, the Bosnian diamond. This guy is still playing to this day. A quiet striker that shined across European clubs, beginning the decade by leading Wolfsburg to their first Bundesliga title in 2009, along with the help of Grafit. This guy then eventually moves to Manchester City and sealed his name as one of the best strikers in football, scoring the 92nd minute equaliser in Manchester City's famous 2012 Premier League win with that Aguero goal. Who was the guy that tied up the game, put the ball up top and said, "Let's run it"? It was Dzeko. He would go on to win 2 Premier League titles and tallied over 50 goals whilst not being the main guy up top. And then after moving to AS Roma in the 2016-17 season, he absolutely exploded. Not physically, but in the goal-scoring front, winning top goal scorer with 29 Serie A goals. And another great thing that happened in his career during the 2010s period is that he captained Bosnia to their first ever World Cup appearance. Carlos Tevez was another one of these strikers that was completely unseen for a lot of his career, yet looking back, he was, again, a brilliant striker, a tenacious bulldog of a striker whose intensity actually froze opposition. He would light it up wherever he played, making waves in the 2000s for the likes of West Ham, Manchester United, but in the 2010s, he would really cement himself as one of the key bagsmen in the area and the era. I guess he's a bagsman in the area and the era. Yeah, getting 20 league goals with Manchester City, but again, he scored goals during his time at Manchester United and was a part of an amazing trio that goes down in history. And it was Carlos Tevez' off-ball work rate that really made him key to every squad that he was a part of, with a low center of gravity which allowed him to dribble past opponents with ease, and just this immense ability to pop a shot from anywhere on a football pitch. Samuel Eto'o was also around in the 2010s, and though it was a twilight to his career, it was still a time where he was bagging goals. Arguably the greatest African striker of all time, this guy made waves wherever he played, with his prime honestly coming earlier from the likes of 2006 to 2009. And from one African striker that saw the tail end of his career in this era to another, we have to talk about Didier Drogba, aka the guy that would show up in all the big games no matter what. It didn't matter what defense showed up in front of him. He was getting a goal. It could have been the Trojan Army. It could have been Spartans, 300 style. If Drogba was in that war, he would have finished it himself. And a lot of people forget that Drogba's peak years were in the mid-2000s, not the 2010s. Because in 2012, where his defining moment came, where he scored a header against Bayern Munich, this guy was 34, leading Chelsea to that title, scoring 9 goals in 9 cup finals throughout his entire career at Chelsea. He was the definition of clutch and hit a peak during the late 2000s and early 2010s, winning the Golden Boot in the 2010 season with 29 goals. As strong as an ox, great in the air, and an incredible ability to hit a long-range strike. This guy would bully defenders to the point where Chelsea would take a goal kick, he would chest it down, turn, and bang it. And despite it not going in all the time, he would create chances through this raw direct ability that he had. And no striker since has come close to this, again, power on the ball. You also had the likes of Cavani, El Matador, who was prolific during this time too. And I in particular remember his stint with Napoli in this side that was just filled with FIFA gems. Like, I'm gonna just keep it real with you. In the 2012/13 season, Cavani led the line, getting 29 goals for Napoli. Then came a big money move to PSG, which saw his form be replicated in a league that was seen as easier. And with that, his goal scoring inflated, scoring over 157 goals for PSG, and at one point being their all-time goal scorer before the Mbappes came along. And alongside one South American bagsman comes another in Radamel Falcao. El Tigre, who for one season was probably the best number 9 in football. From around 2011 to 2013, Falcao was unplayable. At Atletico Madrid, he scored 70 goals in 2 seasons, including a ridiculous tally of 17 in the 2010/11 Europa League. 17 goals in the Europa League alone. Some strikers are getting that in their entire 2 seasons at a club. He led the line at the likes of Porto, Atletico Madrid, and even Monaco. And one of my favourite moments throughout his entire career is his hat-trick in the Super Cup against Chelsea back in 2012. Unfortunately, an ACL injury back in 2014 led to him missing, the World Cup with Colombia. But again, he somehow bounced back, and in 2015/16, he was injected into a Monaco side with young ballers, with the likes of Mbappe in the squad, Thomas Lemar, it was Bernardo Silva, and Falcao was at the top, helping Monaco win a Ligue 1 title and led them deep in the Champions League, with my favourite goal of his being that dink against Manchester City in the Champions League. That was an amazing goal. And even despite all his setbacks and failed stints at the likes of Manchester United and Chelsea, he's still amassed over 300 career goals. And that's what a lot of strikers in this modern game aren't doing, scoring goals. Now I cannot believe that I'm making this video, but strikers in football have changed, and I think they have actually changed for the worse. Now previously I made a video talking about why I thought that strikers aren't the same anymore. And in all honesty, this video was a way for me to cope with the current situation that we are in. And after rewatching that video myself and then seeing the strikers that Arsenal are linked with this summer, I've decided it's time to make another video on this topic. So it's time to swallow my pride and accept that strikers are really not evolving. Darwin Núñez is definitely not world class, and there's about 5 strikers on the planet that are noteworthy. Now let's take a step back into the 2010s, which was a golden era for strikers. We had bundles of bagsmen that set the benchmark for the strikers that we have today. During the last decade, we can see that the average goals per game was 0.75. In the top 5 leagues in Europe, strikers were scoring at 0.75 average chance. That means they were scoring every 3 in 4 chances that they got. But after the last few seasons, that exact stat has gone down to 0.60, a clear decline in the position of the striker's effectiveness. Now, one major reason for this decline is the overall evolution of modern football tactics. The likes of Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp popularized the tactic of a high-pressing game, where a team's defense actually starts from the front of the pitch, which therefore has increased the workload on strikers, making them over time less focused on purely scoring goals. Now, the role of a striker has also evolved. Strikers today are just expected to be more versatile. They're not just goal poachers anymore. They need to assist, they need to trap back, and they need to create space for their teammates with diversion runs. All these new functions has diluted their sole objective, which was to score goals. And in my previous video on this topic, I did discuss this, highlighting how modern strikers have to drop into deep pockets on the pitch to pick up the ball and help their teammates, which wasn't common about a decade ago. Right now in the comments below, name me a striker that you can confidently say is world class. A complete striker, a guy that is going to get you a goal no matter whether you're losing, drawing, or winning. Instantly, people will say the likes of Harry Kane, Haaland, Osimhen, Lautaro Martinez, Gyökeres, Stesko, Olivier Watkini. But none of these except Kane could even touch the greatness that was the strikers of the previous decade. The likes of Suarez, Van Persie, Cavani, Fernando Torres, David Villa, Samuel Eto'o, Ibrahimovic, Lewandowski, Benzema. But it's just not fair to compare the new strikers to the ones of old. Because let's just take a striker that played in both of these eras. A striker that was not only a pioneer of the 2010s, but is also still playing to this day. Robert Lewandowski is a striker that most football fans seem to forget. But after 557 goals in 756 games, I think you shouldn't really be forgetting his name. Now, what if I told you that there is an unknown striker that is outscoring every top elite footballer in the world right now? Yes, you heard that correctly. There is a player that nobody really knows about that is outscoring the likes of Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, and even me, Jib. I sometimes play Sunday League. Now, Sergio Guirassy is a Guinean forward that is currently playing for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga, and man oh man is he lighting up the league this season. He has got 14 goals in 8 matches. Do you know how wild that is? 14 goals in 8 matches, and to add on top of that, he's got an assist as well. The guy is an absolute baller, and I've been keeping up with him for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Unfortunately, he recently suffered a little hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon, but his rates are still incredible, and still nobody has got more than 14 goals in the top 5 leagues this season. The 27-year-old that Stuttgart signed permanently last season has hit his absolute peak years, his prime, and is showing out every single week. The other day I was chilling and I saw this video on my recommended. It was a video about every single shot that Sergio Guirassy has had, and like half of them, even more than half of them, go in the back of the net. Like, this guy's shot to goal ratio is insane, and his finishing is 99. Now, Stuttgart are a struggling team in the Bundesliga. They are not one of the elites, and last season they finished 16th. Guess where they are right now? 4th. With the help of Guirassy's contributions, they sit 4th in the Bundesliga. And for me personally, his attributes just scream prime Emmanuel Adebayor. I don't
I'm just so disappointed. I'm going to kill myself.
Now, if you don't know who Adebayor is, you are way too young to be watching these videos because he played at Arsenal, Tottenham, Real Madrid. Now, my early years of watching Arsenal, I was seeing Adebayor up top. Lanky yet athletic enough to hold off a man. He could hold up the play but could also dribble with the ball, but he didn't really put up consistent numbers every single season, you know. He wasn't a 20 goal per season striker, but he was still, in my opinion, a very skillful striker, and I really appreciate him for his time at Arsenal. Obviously, he ruined it when he went to Man City and celebrated in front of the Arsenal crowd, but he still had a very good career in the Premier League. And from seeing Jurassi's highlights, you know, he's looking a bit Adebayor-esque. He is 27, in his prime years. He's been around for a while. We are not seeing this young, promising striker come from nowhere because he's been around, fading at the likes of Rennes and Cologne, and finally picking up his form at Stuttgart. If we're looking into the future, I don't think this consistency can stay, you know. I don't think he's going to go 5 seasons being this good, but for the time being, outscoring the likes of Harry Kane, Haaland, and even me, he's doing pretty well. From his goal contributions, you can see that the man has techers, because these goals aren't just easy tap-ins. There are volleys. He is even shooting from outside the box. He is running in behind. He is, you know, controlling it from all these angles and putting it in the back of the net. He is a clinical striker, and I think there are a lot of clubs that are crying out for this archetype of player. Strikers are in hot demand right now because there aren't a lot of world-class ones. But when a striker like this comes out of the bushes, you know, just comes and surprises people, of course people are going to hype him up. He may have 14 goals in 8 games, but then finish the season with 17 goals, but still he has shown his capabilities. But I hope that when he comes back from injury, he can continue this form for the entire season. Right now, he is going up against Harry Kane in the league, in my opinion, the best striker in world football, and he is outscoring him. Can Jurasi keep up this form, or is it just temporary? Is this guy just a world-class striker that was hidden behind a closet? We won't know until the end of the season, but people need to start talking about this guy. He needs to be in the conversations for a striker that should be moving to your club. With the likes of Ivan Toney possibly getting a move, Osimhen and even Sesko, this guy's name should be added into the bunch of strikers that your club probably needs. And I'm pretty sure that this summer he will leave. And from there, we'll see what he's really capable of when he's doing it in the elite levels of football. Players don't have seasons like this all the time. And there are many valid cases of a player coming onto the scene, scoring, you know, 25 goals in the season and then just disappearing. Look at the likes of Michu for Swansea in the Premier League. Same sort of thing. Came in, did his bit, you know, banged in all these goals, disappeared. So hopefully he doesn't turn out like that. Hopefully this is a striker that could put his name in the ballot and, you know, become world class. Now the top scorers in football today are the likes of Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. These guys that completely obliterate the strikers that I mentioned in this video when you talk about just the number game. But these strikers are just outliers in an era that strikers are kind of fading away, as teams are slowly but surely using strikers less, with only few having a claim to be called world class. And I think it's an incredible contrast when looking back at this time where strikers, again, were freaks of nature, because the list of strikers that you could talk about that played during the 90s and early 2000s absolutely topple over strikers in football that are playing today. You had the English bagsman himself, Alan Shearer, that was playing again during the 90s and late 90s. You also had the likes of Hernan Crespo, scoring 26 goals for the likes of Lazio. And this guy was a freak of nature. He had the athletic ability to just out-jump defenders. If you see some of his goals, it looks like he could just be taken and put into the modern game. You also had someone like Christian Vieri, aka Bobo, who again showed dominance during his peak years. And I haven't even talked about the likes of R9, George Weah, and Thierry Henry, who all, you know, their careers spanned during this time, the 90s and the early 2000s. R9, when he first came about, was the guy. From PSV to Barcelona to Inter Milan, wherever he went, goals followed. And this wasn't just during his club time too. It was when he went to Brazil. He was literally winning them the World Cup by himself. In his 96/97 season for Barcelona, he got 34 goals in 37 games. And if you want to dive even further into just this poaching ability that strikers during this era had, look at Raul, with over 200 goals whilst playing in La Liga for Real Madrid. Before all the superstars joined, Raul was the guy. And if you're still not convinced, during this same era, we had Shevchenko, who went on to win a Ballon d'Or. We had Trezeguet, who, you know, helped France internationally. And what I'm really trying to get at is that modern strikers are just a shadow of the past. Because online, there's a lot of murmurs that strikers during the 2000s wouldn't be able to keep up with the strikers of today. And if you look at the general landscape of strikers in football right now, honestly, it's appalling. There's a bucket full of like 7 strikers that you could kind of claim to be world class, and that's it. But back during this time, every other team had a striker that was absolutely balling out. And that's why you had standout seasons where strikers were winning the top goal scorer award whilst playing for a team that wasn't even one of the best in the league. So essentially, strikers during the 2000s were freaks of nature, and you can't tell me otherwise. But again, you look at the 2010s, you look at these guys, yeah? Maybe that's another video for another day. But now, thank you guys for watching that entire video. I don't know if you are asleep right now or you actually stayed around and watched the entire thing in the background while you were playing games or studying or doing homework. But what I can say is that I'm grateful for you watching this video. And of course, recently, we actually hit 100,000 subscribers. I was supposed to do a Q&A, and a lot of people were telling me to do a Q&A. I even put out a video asking for questions, but honestly, that's just really not my vibe. Like, I don't really like to speak to the camera. I don't really want to make a video like that. So I have massive videos coming for the last quarter of this year, and I'm gonna just tell you guys in this video. We've obviously got more ball knowledge to fall asleep to. I think I'm gonna do one during Christmas, like in a Santa outfit or something, and it's gonna be like actually recorded. It's not just gonna be old clips. I want to do another generational runs in football video, another 10 out of 10 performances in football video. I want to do a bunch of 2000s era stuff too, and maybe we might do another 2010s video too. But it's all down to how hard I'm gonna work in these last months, which would end off a year that would be my first full year since getting fired from my job. But yeah, this next year is going to be about expanding this YouTube channel and seeing how far we can get. And you know what? Maybe I'll do a Q&A for Christmas. Like during that period of time, maybe I'll just pump out a little Q&A for you guys. Because I know a lot of people want my advice. They email me about how to make my videos. There's people on Instagram that literally DM me telling me that they're going to copy my videos and they want me to tell them how to do it. Like, at least pay me. Why would I help you copy my videos? It makes no sense. Anyways, if you're still around at this rant bit, just ignore what I'm saying. I'm gonna get cancelled anyway. So I'll see you in the next video, guys. Stay safe, stay blessed, and peace.
So Japan went to North America for a couple friendlies and did absolutely nothing. A horrendous 0-0 draw against Mexico, where genuinely there cannot be a single positive takeaway for the Samurai Blue, followed up by a 2-0 defensive disaster class loss against the U.S. men's national team. Before I say anything else, I should say that I love the Japanese national team probably more than you do, and I want nothing more than them to be successful. That's why I'm angry, because I give a damn, because I care, because I do think Japan's the best team in Asia, because I do think they can make a semifinal at the World Cup, but holy shit, it needs to get better, and it needs to get better right freaking now. I can understand a coach wanting to rotate and wanting to give other players an opportunity. I understand that. What I don't get is having a 0-0 stinker, and I mean a smelly stinker against Mexico, and then say, you know what, I think the A team guys did well. Let's throw in, not even the B team, let's throw in the C team for this game against the United States, which also at the same time is insanely insulting to the USA. Like, again, Japan, where does this sense of superiority come from? Who do you think you are? In the footballing world, you've done almost nothing. This current generation of players has done nothing. Nothing at all. Beat Spain at a World Cup. Great. Beat Germany at a World Cup. Great. Then you folded against Croatia. What about the Asian Cups? Y'all haven't won an Asian Cup since 2011. I mean, it is so peak right now for Japan and how bad it is. I don't think people understand how bad it is. I get accused of being a Japanese simp all the time. That's because I do put tons of respect on this team. Many of my favorite players ever, many of my favorite players currently are Japanese. I watch every single Japanese game. Most of the time I'm live on the channel. Hit subscribe, mofo. But what I'm seeing now is disgusting behavior from Moriyasu and the players. Everyone's going to blame Moriyasu 100%. I think he has the bulk of the blame, but these players have to be better than this. And I know now there will be so many Japanese apologists down below in the comments who are saying that I'm being too harsh, or, you know what, let's just go through the excuses one by one. Number one, they will say, it was a friendly, nobody wants to get injured, the game doesn't matter. You sound soft, and you are soft. And guess who else is soft? The Japanese national team. Japan is not good enough to have this mentality. I talked about this on the stream yesterday. Argentina was the first team in South America to qualify, the very first one. Guess what? They played the full A team in a meaningless game against Venezuela. Oh, Jack, it was Messi's send-off game at home, so they didn't want to lose. Okay, granted, I mean, they absolutely murdered Venezuela, too. It wasn't like they just played the 18 guys. Every one of those 18 players gave 100% in that game. The Japanese 18 players against Mexico? Oh my god. Ritsu Doan, Kairi Mitoma, Takumi Minamino, hang your freaking heads in shame at how bad you were in that game. Anyways, getting back to Argentina. So they played the full strength squad in a meaningless game. I don't really think any games. A meaningless game against Venezuela. Okay. And then what do they do in the next game? The next meaningless game. They go away to Ecuador, to Quito, and they have 5 or 6 starters still in the lineup in yet another meaningless game. And so what's the excuse? Are Argentina stupid? Do they not know how to build a successful team? Is Scaloni, the guy who's won 2 Copa Americas consecutively, a finalissima in the World Cup, does he not understand football like Moriyasu does? Does he not understand how to build a winning team? You are all idiots. This is a difference in culture, mentality, and desire. There's a reason that Argentina are World Cup champions. There's a reason Japan hasn't won an Asian Cup since 2011. There's a reason Japan has never won a knockout game at a World Cup. And you can't say it's talent. You cannot say it is talent, that they're not talented enough. We have seen teams way less talented than Japan make a quarterfinals before. You're going to compare Costa Rica 2014 to this Japan squad? I love that Costa Rica side. This Japan team sweeps. Maybe 1 or 2 Costa Ricans get in there. That's it. Keylor Navas 100%, so probably 3. That's it. It's not talent. It's everything around it. It's the system, and it needs to be destroyed and rebuilt, or Japan's never going to achieve anything. Or they're certainly never going to achieve their potential. Even in that game I just referenced, guess who else was already qualified? And guess who also fielded the entire A team to try to win the game? Ecuador. Both teams played their starters in a meaningless game. And that is the difference between CONMEBOL and AFC. And look, Asia doesn't have the same footy culture. Not even close to CONMEBOL. But should that not be the goal? Should that not be the aspiration? Instead, we got this malaise that's just always hanging over the Japanese national team in particular, where there's this superiority that Japanese fans and Japanese players have because they are the most talented. That's an objective fact. They are the most talented team in Asia. But talent doesn't win you games. And again, you guys haven't won a trophy in 15 years. So you would think that at some point Japan would stop dicking around and take these games more seriously. I don't see it. The difference between elite teams in Japan is literally just how they approach the sport. That is it. The number 2 excuse that I'm going to hear, Moriyasu wanted to learn things. Learn what, bro? Learn that the backups aren't good enough? Why don't you learn more about the A team? Why don't you find out a starting 11 that starts scoring some freaking goals against somebody not named China? Moriyasu, how about that be the number 1 lesson that you're pursuing and you're trying to answer for Japan? Instead, you're playing a horrendous back 3, which did anyone need to see 90 minutes of that to say, you know what? I don't think Sekime is a right-sided center back. You know what? I don't think Nagatomo should be a starting defender for Japan in 2025. Did anyone need to see a game against the United States to learn that lesson? If you're intelligent, the answer is no. Maybe Moriyasu's not intelligent. I just don't think he's a winner. I think that's his biggest problem. The A team for Japan has not been good enough recently. And I'm so sick of people excusing this over and over again. I feel like I'm the only person on YouTube who is calling out this utter BS. I'm going to present an idea. Some of you will say this is revolutionary, and then you guys tell me if this would have made sense. Okay, so let's go back in time. Japan has a terrible 0-0 performance against Mexico. The players go to Moriyasu, and they say, hey, coach, we didn't play very well. Can we get the 45 against the U.S. men's national team? Or, ideally, the manager himself has that conversation, says, you know what, that was shit. All of you were terrible, outside of Zion Suzuki, our goalkeeper. The rest of you were terrible. I want you guys to play 45 against the United States, a United States that just got body bagged by our arch rival South Korea. I want you to go out there, and I want the same freaking score at halftime. I want us to be winning 2-0 at halftime, and then I'm pulling all of you. And then I throw Sekime on, and then I throw Sano on, and then I throw Maeda on as a freaking left wing back, and then I throw on Ogawa. How about that? Then I throw on the other Suzuki, Yuito. How about that? Wouldn't that have made more sense? Wouldn't that have been a better plan? Because the A team wasn't good. So don't they need an extra 45 against another reasonably strong opponent in the United States? Wouldn't that have made more sense? Instead, they play a full squad of randoms who have never played together before, and they concede freaking 22 shots and 11 shots on target. Is anybody surprised? Japan deserved to get spanked in that U.S. game. And offensively, like I said, a fair scoreline, I think, was probably a 4-2 for the United States. I think Japan deserved a couple goals. I think the United States deserved more than 2. This really feels peak for the Japanese national team. I'm going to keep on saying the last good performance for Japan was Saudi Arabia away. What was the date of that game? Hold on, I need to look this up. That was October 10th. That was October 10th. That was almost a year ago. Was the last good result from Japan, the last good performance from Japan. No, I'm not counting Indonesia 6-0. You need to compare yourself to a top 30, top 20 teams in world football. Y'all, in the last 6 games, this is an updated stat for y'all. It was the last 5 games. The last 5 games, Saudi Arabia twice, Australia twice, and Mexico. Japan has scored 2 goals from open play. Let's now add the United States to that list. The last 6 games against reasonable opposition, 2 goals scored from Japan. It is absolutely pathetic. It is absolutely embarrassing. I've seen so many, even Japanese journalists who are like, oh yeah, I mean the results against Australia, Saudi Arabia, it doesn't matter. Japan was qualified, they didn't care. Yeah, that's your problem, bro. That's your problem. You didn't care? That's your problem. You think Kobe Bryant never took it easy. You think Michael Jordan never took it easy. That's why they're the GOATs, and that's why Japan hasn't won anything since 2011. And that's why Japan can't win a penalty shootout. Sorry, can you take it or not? I don't care. You can leave and go to another channel that's just going to suck up to Japan every single chance and not tell you any of the truths. I don't care. Unsubscribe. I do not care. There are 4 games left until the World Cup, y'all. 4 games left. You had 5. You had a 5th one against the United States, and you sat the A team. An A team that's not good right now. So now you got 4 games left. Congratulations, Moriyasu. You got Brazil and Paraguay next window. And you better not freaking bottle it. You better not bottle it. And I swear, dude, if Paraguay and Brazil both win, or I don't even care about the result, if both performances are bad, it could be 2 0-0 draws. Which a 0-0 against Brazil is okay. It could be 2 0-0 draws. If the performances are bad, and I see the Japan Times, or I see another Japanese publication that I have to use Google Translate to read, and maybe the translation's not 100% correct, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt when I freaking can. If I see that Moriyasu was learning more things, if I see that Moriyasu wanted to experiment against Brazil, if I read that these games don't matter because they're friendlies against elite teams from South America, my head is going to explode live on video. I'm gonna officially have tapped out. Like, I'm just selling more and more stock with Japan as the freaking hours go on. Because this mentality is so important. in football. You guys don't understand that. When you're an athlete, your mentality is everything. If you say, I gotta win no matter what, if you say, I'm a killer, that benefits you. If you ever have played a sport, you've ever gone out there and thought, like, this game doesn't matter, I bet you didn't play very well. I bet it wasn't your best performance. Well, Japan's been saying that for 12 months now. And so what? You're going to go into the World Cup having not cared or not tried for 18 months consecutively, and then you got to turn it on in the World Cup? Good luck. Good luck. God bless. Godspeed to the Japanese national team. It's embarrassing. This was a pathetic friendly window from Japan. South Korea, they showed you how it's done. South Korea, maybe you should take a couple notes from those guys. Maybe you should look at Sung Hyun-min after the game, upset that South Korea didn't beat Mexico, and they should have beat Mexico. They had a great game. Why don't you take notes on that? Where are the leaders in this team? Where's Wataru Endo getting pissed off? Where is Junya Ito? Where are any of the senior players in here? Is it because Hidemasa Morita wasn't there? Like, what is going on? Is there someone on the coaching staff who can please stand up and be a man? It is so wild, man. I hope that I'm wrong about everything, and I hope that Japan makes the semifinal of the World Cup. I think that they need to be making the quarterfinal. I think they're a top 10 national team in the world. But if you're a top 10 national team in the world when you're playing Bahrain, China, and Indonesia and Syria, that's not good enough. You have to look like that when you play the elite teams. And so far, the elite teams have made Japan look extremely average. And for this being the most talented Japanese squad of all time, the golden generation, some people say, of Japanese talent, well, maybe you could say this is their second one. I feel like the Kagawa, Keisuke Honda generation, Yoshida, Nagatomo, that was pretty golden too. I think it's a little disrespectful to say this is the golden generation, but whatever. Golden generation part 2, upgraded if you want to say it. The diamond generation. Oh, this is sad. This is sad. This is concerning. Because I'm really afraid these guys are not going to reach their potential, or even close. That's the rant video. I'm upset. You guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. So Japan went to North America for a couple friendlies and did absolutely nothing. A horrendous 0-0 draw against Mexico, where genuinely there cannot be a single positive takeaway for the Samurai Blue, followed up by a 2-0 defensive disaster class loss against the U.S. men's national team. Before I say anything else, I should say that I love the Japanese national team, probably more than you do, and I want nothing more than them to be successful. That's why I'm angry, because I give a damn, because I care, because I do think Japan's the best team in Asia, because I do think they can make a semifinal at the World Cup, but holy shit.
Over the course of his career, Andrew Schultz has built his name as a comedian who believes no topic is taboo.
Blackface is wrong. It's racist. You cannot do it. Okay? Under no circumstances, cannot do it. Then you see them Navy SEALs commercials. You're like, all right, well, kind of. Sometimes you could do it. You put a Latin girl's stomach, her belly button just opens up and takes that. Yeah. Hungry hippo sitting there, dog.
Through the massive success of the Flagrant podcast that even outgrew his original launchpad of The Brilliant Idiots with Charlemagne, Schultz went from playing second fiddle to being a star. But while his podcast would go on to do insane numbers, it also had its drawbacks, as where most fans saw what he had to say as just comedy, some started viewing his jokes as racist, conspiratorial, or even attempts to pander to the right-wing audience. And before he knew it, he was facing as much backlash as he was fanfare. At its peak, Flagrant pulled millions per episode, but now, many episodes barely crack 500K. It even dropped from top 3 on Spotify to barely entering the top 50. So, what could be the reason for this major downturn? Could it be the fact that fans started calling him out for constantly interrupting guests?
So I'm in London. Diddy had previously hit me up to say, hey, listen,
Yo,
stop.
think about basketball nicknames. Earl Monroe, Earl the Pearl, Black Jesus.
No Max
And you're
Kyrie.
no Max. Do you see the drop in creativity?
No,
That's
no
what I'm
Max
saying.
Kyrie worse. Like, my dude's going to do some extraordinary things since he hasn't been vaccinated. Come on, stop playing. Anyway, so I'm in. This whole makes sense.
This guy's good.
I got to say the story, okay?
Belittling them,
Are you in a relationship? What's going on?
You're looking at me with these faces like it's difficult. She can't control
It's listening hard for you. This is what it looks like when you're listening. This is you listening, right? This is you.
And allegedly forcing laughs.
By the way, I gotta ask you something.
Yeah.
The mustache.
It's not a question. It's a statement.
Or the fact that many of his viewers feel that he is trying way too hard to seem deep and smart, while forgetting what made people like him in the first place.
Schultz
What are you talking about?
Schultz epiphanies are my favorite.
Yo.
He repeats a statement. He's like, that's crazy, bro.
It's your boy Luis, and today we're going to go through the series of events that led Andrew Schultz to the unfortunate point that it seems he finds controversy at every turn. But to understand how it went so wrong, we need to first understand what he did right to gain the spotlight in the first place. The 41-year-old comedian known to the world as Andrew Schultz was born in New York City and actually fell into stand-up comedy by accident while managing a restaurant. He started performing in New York, then landed spots on MTV2, where he would then start to build his name in comedy. Then, in 2015, he teamed up with his close friend and Breakfast Club radio star, Charlamagne the God, to launch their Brilliant Idiots podcast. This quickly expanded his reach and built his platform even further, with the duo's dynamic often leading to a routine laugh fest among viewers. By the year 2017, Andrew Schultz had been grinding in New York's comedy scene for over a decade. Yet, no matter how good he was, the networks wouldn't give him a shot. In fact, Charlamagne was the first one to really give him any kind of potential boost in his profile. Eventually, he took matters into his own hands, spending $25,000 to film his own special, fully polished, and ready for whichever major platform was willing to make a deal. Still, every network passed. That's when Schultz realized he'd have to do it on his own terms. He started thinking differently, asking his friends how they watched stand-up, and they all said the same thing. Yeah, it was good, but I didn't finish it. That's when it all clicked to Andrew that dropping an hour special would be too long, and he thought of a brilliant idea to break the special down to 16 minutes, and dropped it on YouTube in the form of 441.
This is not a comedy special. It's not a comedy documentary. This is a comedy experience. Welcome to the world of the New York comic. I hope you enjoy it.
This earned him the respect of the audience who admired his power to stay away from the big corps and going rogue, even if the reality was that the big corporations simply weren't buying what he was selling at the time. But since he already had a decent following on YouTube, he decided to pursue it as if it was his own network. After his special took off, Schultz's YouTube kept growing, but keeping up with new material every week was tough. So he leaned into crowd work, using improv and roasts to create fresh content on a nightly basis.
Okay, how old are you guys?
Just turned 18, that's it.
Everybody stop. Let me help you answer that question again, okay? Do not ever say just turned 18 again in your life.
And judging by the millions of views he pulled in on the compilations alone, it was clearly another decision that was a huge success for Andrew. He'd film every show, sometimes 7 in one weekend, just to get one viral clip. And clearly it worked, as his platform grew exponentially. Undeterred, Schultz was intent on continuing his growth, even as COVID shut down what should have been a world tour. While other comedians hit pause, Schultz built a home studio and started dropping unfiltered, late-night style monologues. No network approval, no watered-down jokes, just raw takes that connected, especially when compared to the usual safe TV comedy.
Biden has been running for president from home. That's right, it's just him, his family, and 10,000 Crest white strips.
Biden is a man of principle. He likes his women like he likes his scotch. Aged 12 years and stored in a cellar.
Another thing Schultz mastered was how to move via social media. He tailored every monologue to match the vibe of each platform. On Instagram, he'd hook you with a punchy one-liner, then hit you with a turn your phone prompt, making sure you didn't scroll past.
Masks. To wear or not to wear? That is the question. Turn your phone. Let me show you something. First of all, how do we even get into this mess? Central Park Karen. You twat. Turn your phone. Let me show you something. Tekashi 69. Fresh out of prison, and I know exactly what he should do next. Run for president. Turn your phone real quick. Let me show you something.
Schultz dropped 17 monologues in as many weeks, each averaging 2 million views. That's more than the comedy networks who spent 5 years overlooking him ever managed to pull. For all these reasons and more, Schultz carved out his own lane in comedy, turning a personal passion into a wildly successful career, and doing it in a way that no one had before. Still, he wasn't without his naysayers. There were moments where his success was belittled by even some of the biggest names in the game like Dave Chappelle. who dismissed his come up as if he didn't embody the essence of a true comedian, although Andrew Schultz brushed it off as if it weren't that big of a deal.
So we're out there in Arizona, we're cooling, chilling by the pool, and all of a sudden people start hitting me up. They're like, yo, Chappelle's on, Rogan, throwing shade at you, right? I'm like, there's no way did Chappelle be throwing shade or even hating, that I would even be on his radar, right? So someone sends me the clip, and I check it out.
Like Andrew Schultz's best example, 10, 15-minute rants with photographs and punchline after punchline after punchline. Then they did a whole Netflix special about it.
But that's not, like you say, that's not stand-up.
No.
Like this thing that you're describing, God bless him.
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
Yeah.
I like happening in real life.
Yeah.
You know, I could throw a slideshow and the shit if I want to. But that,
Let me just give some context to this. I think I would have reacted the same way as Dave, given how I was described. I don't know what that shit is, a little slideshow.
We stand-ups, yeah.
Exactly, we're stand-ups, so it's just like, I understand that first reaction.
But for many viewers, Chappelle was onto something. Because while strategically using social media to market edgy, controversial jokes was one thing, it was his podcast that he was growing in the background, alongside Brilliant Idiots, that seemed to stir up the most drama. Let's rewind back to 2017, when Andrew paired up with the comedian Akash Singh, and started a podcast called Flagrant 2, named after the foul of the same name in basketball. This started out as a sports podcast, with two comedians and their guests only occasionally talking about other topics. As it attracted a smaller, more niche audience, the podcast wasn't as big a success as his other ventures at first. Still, some people considered it their top 3 podcasts to listen to, and further advanced his fan base. Out of the 4 main podcasts I listened to, Andrew on 3 of them. This man is super talented at creating content. But the basketball angle didn't last long, as after the success of his 4-part special, which leaned heavily into politics, Andrew started seeing Flagrant 2 in that same direction, essentially making the podcast go from sounding like this.
People think he held his own with the best ever.
But here's the
He'd
thing.
have to get good, yeah.
He'll only make money on 2 fights. He'll make money if they're smart. They'll put him up against some guy that they know he can beat.
Yeah.
Who will be someone who's trash.
Yeah.
He'll make money, and then he'll fight a Canelo and just get destroyed.
Yeah.
To this.
Key to happiness in life is stop caring what short-haired fat bitches think. I promise you, your life will be happier and better if the second a girl with short hair who's overweight says anything at all, you just block it out. If they tweet, you should have your hair length and weight on your Twitter, and then you should be able to mute based on hair length and weight.
I don't know what's so funny. If it's
so
gossip.
happy in your life if you stop thinking, because that's the opinions that drive you crazy. Why would you say that? How could you have that opinion? Your opinion is problematic. You get my haircut. We got the same. If we got the same haircut, you don't need to say nothing to me.
Another shit that happened during this time was the way Andrew presented himself. He went from being just an edgy, equal opportunity offending comedian to someone who believed himself to be smarter than everyone else around him. A pseudo-philosopher, if you will.
Are we willing to pay the price for our words to be valuable?
Now there, you could put that on a t-shirt and print it.
Maybe the success gave him the impression that it all happened because of his superior intellect, as suddenly he became more arrogant and confrontational. Though, to be fair, he was never exactly the quiet type to begin with. However, it's not hard to see the difference between when he was making a joke at someone's expense for comedy, or just being mean because he thought of himself as better than them. A good example of the latter came when he was on the Full Send podcast with the Nelk Boys, where, instead of going with the flow, Andrew decided to make a scene by calling out Steiny for his lack of preparation for the pod.
You know, what bothers you the most right now?
Nothing.
Nothing bothers you?
You look at your phone while we're taking this energy, and everybody's seeming disinterested.
Were you looking at notes or texting girls? Notes.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Me taking time out of my day to do this, and then feeling
Dude,
like
I've never
I'm forcing you guys to do the podcast.
I've never been more excited to do a podcast.
Say again?
I've never been more excited. I'm sorry. I
Don't apologize.
No.
Don't apologize. You asked me what annoyed me, and I gave you an honest answer.
Wait, are you being serious about that?
Yeah, that annoyed me.
Really?
Yes.
But that was only the beginning. Because as the situation went on, Andrew went from pointing out that he found the phone use annoying to straight up calling Steiny himself annoying.
If you like gambling sites.
I feel bad. I feel like you came at me a little bit there.
Why do you feel bad?
I just feel like you targeted me. Is you or no? Did someone tell you to do that?
No. I thought you were just being a little annoying.
How?
I think you're annoying.
Really?
A little bit. Yeah.
And as if that wasn't enough, he then switched on his philosopher persona and began trying to psychoanalyze Steiny right there with an impromptu therapy session.
No, just say how you honestly feel. Don't
I feel good, bro. I think you're pretty
You don't
funny.
feel good. You don't feel good. You feel insecure right now because you think I don't like you.
I do
Why
feel
do you
that
think? Why do you think I don't like you?
Because you turned on me like probably like an hour 20 into the pod.
And was there anything that maybe you did to change my energy towards you? Or how about this? Do you think that I gave you a fair shot in the beginning?
You did, but I sent a text during the pod, and I think that's when it turned.
Right.
You know when it turned?
Maybe, I don't know. Your line of questioning after that wasn't great, but I do sense that you're playing a bit of a character, and I don't have as much of a tolerance for characters as I do for authenticity.
In isolation, this could seem like nothing more than Andrew getting annoyed by Steiny, and then deciding to take his frustrations out on air. After all, most Noke listeners are of the opinion that Steiny is irritating. The thing is, this type of confrontational behavior was starting to become a lot more common around this time, and there was good reason for that. You see, while he's never confirmed or denied the rumor, there's a good chance that Andrew hired a new marketing team around late 2021 to early 2022, since this was also around the time when massive sweeping changes began happening around the Flagrant podcast. For starters, he renamed the podcast to just Flagrant, likely to make it sound more professional, and also distance it from its sports-centric origin. The cast also went from mainly him and Akash to adding 2 more members, Mark Gagnon and Alex. But rather than add new dynamics to the show, these new additions also acting as yes men, laugh at and agree with everything Andrew Schultz has to say. Lastly, on the 25th of May 2022, Andrew also revealed the new, more professional looking studio.
Hey, fellas, come in here. I'm just going to answer the question right away. Too expensive. Too much. Okay? That's how much it was. Too much.
The podcast went from being sort of a passion project of a comedian looking to make people laugh to somehow similar to the late night show. This pivot towards more professional content could also be seen in things like the thumbnails, which all of a sudden became a lot cleaner and coherent. This shift helped Andrew reach a more mainstream audience and obtain an unprecedented level of success. However, while this rebrand was great for views, it also had negative effects of turning Andrew even more egotistical. More importantly, this wasn't an Ellen DeGeneres situation where the toxic behavior was reserved for behind the camera. Instead, Andrew's problematic side was out in the open for his viewers to see. And there's no better example of this change than his episode with his longtime friend Whitney Cummings from April of 2023. Now, Whitney doesn't have the best reputation in the comedy community. A lot of people find her annoying and her routines unfunny. And with the way Andrew acted during her second round on Flagrant, she came off looking like a saint, or at least the solitary adult in the room. Because just 15 seconds into the episode, Andrew was already making fun of her facial expressions by comparing her to a dog.
No, you just said that I didn't watch any of the roast.
No, I just.
Is that what you just said?
I just said.
What did you just say? I didn't watch 1 minute of the roast.
No, I sent you a link.
Just tell me what you said. Don't do the golden retriever outside the car window on the highway. Let's just not do each other like this.
You just called me a dog.
Whitney initially tried to banter with Andrew so they could move on and keep things light, but Andrew kept bringing up her looks and facial expressions over and over again.
When you think I'm setting you up for something, you do this thing where you're like this.
No, this is just how I look best in the light. I'm getting older, Andrew.
What's going on? You're gonna look at me with these faces like it's difficult.
She can't control that.
Is listening hard for you? This is what it looks like when you're listening. This is you listening, right? This is you. With my face while the other people talk.
She's been hanging out with Whitney for about too long. That's
That's the problem. That's how you age. They're too reactive when you're listening. Even right now, you try to not do it. It's just pressing your lips like a. I know. This is how you listen, right? You just go like this.
Even when the conversation had ventured into something completely unrelated, Andrew somehow found a way to bring it back to her appearance.
Dude, I love doing corporate gigs because it's also like it's a big business. I think for more like female comics, because like you stand up as a woman. It's not a business. It's not. It's viable.
Tell us how hard it is. Like,
I'm not saying it's hard.
tell us how hard it is to be a female comic. Like, that's what we love to listen to.
I'm not saying. I think it's hard to be.
It's so tough on the road.
No, it's not safe. It's sad. What are you doing?
I tell you to go back to the hotel.
No one's
It's so different than being a woman anywhere else in life. How is being trying to go on the road any different than just going out to a bar? I always hear this from female comics. Like, guys always trying to go back to your hotel. And it's like, look at the face again. You're listening again. You put on your listening face. I'd rather you look at me and just think about like a dog bone. Just think about a bone. Just think about a bone. Think about your happy face and then look like this when I'm talking to you.
It was getting ridiculous at this point, and despite her best efforts to mask the uncomfortable atmosphere with forced laughter, it wasn't long before Whitney felt compelled to call the group out directly.
You know, LAPD, I mean, their whole thing is like, you don't really need, like, you know, a BB gun I have loaded, but if you have a gun, like, that solves half of your problem.
I feel like you're having 4 different conversations with yourself right now.
First of all, how dare you? I came in here, I'm being attacked by you I'm trying.
To make matters worse, during the second half of the podcast, Andrew thought it'd be a good idea to turn this one into an impromptu therapy session as well.
Despite all the shit that you went through in your life, despite these relationships you grew up with.
Couldn't be happier.
No, not about happy. Despite all those things that could interrupt your ability to be loved and love people, you got a lot of people who love you.
Well, I think that the key, and my best friend, Nick,
Don't explain it.
told me,
Don't
if you're
explain
going
it.
to get your heart broken,
Don't explain it.
Just take it in.
Just take it in.
but I agree.
Stop trying to
But what do you
science
want me
it.
to say, though?
Yes.
Stop being a
Nothing.
nerd with your
Don't say
facts.
Just take it in.
Don't
Just
be a
hear
nerd
it.
with your facts.
However, the most infuriating moment of the podcast came near the end.
Now this is a wild take that the guys don't really appreciate.
I think it's sorry. Can I say something about
No,
elevating?
I was in the middle of a sentence.
I know, but if
I know, but we're not moving on. It's
But
about this. It's about this.
The fact that Andrew kept interrupting her for the past 2 hours, and then had this reaction when she tried to say something, was wild, to say the least. But once this podcast made its way to YouTube, the viewers wholeheartedly agreed. Not a Whitney fan, but Andrew was absolutely insufferable. Big props to Whitney for being more mature than 4 guys on their period. I never experienced secondhand embarrassment, but this brought me to the brink. The episode also received a noticeable amount of dislikes, largely because of how Andrew behaved. But unfortunately for his fans, this was far from the last time he'd act this way with a guest. And while there's no way for us to confirm whether this was always part of Andrew's personality, and he never got the chance to be himself before, or if this was something he picked up after letting his success get to his head, what we do know for sure is that this douchey persona became a core part of his presence from this point onward, and manifested in many different forms. Take the Logan Paul appearance in August 2023. Now, Logan had already appeared on the Flagrant podcast before in June 2022. However, a quick look at the difference in dislikes between the 2 episodes shows that something went horribly wrong on his second appearance. One of the biggest issues people had with this new episode was that Andrew, despite presenting himself as someone willing to speak his mind, did not bring up the CryptoZoo controversy, which has been a main center of the conversation around Logan Paul's name, not even once during the nearly 2-hour podcast. As a top comment under the video put it, Andrew not getting into the scam is unacceptable. Given Logan's reputation at the time, inviting him on the podcast was certainly a choice. What made this even more weird, however, was how Andrew spent almost the entire episode not only sucking up to Logan, but also weirdly groping him repeatedly.
By the way, thanks for having you guys. I love you guys.
Welcome,
It's always a
man.
good time kicking
Love
with
you
the
too.
boys. You're doing great. Thanks. Yeah, bro, I wasn't engaged. Now I'm engaged.
Yo, you are, dude. I'm engaged.
The whole thing was strange, with people pointing it out in the comments. I've never seen Andrew glaze someone this hard. It's actually embarrassing how soft this was, and even calling out Andrew for his hypocrisy, stating, has a problem with Steiny being fake, but not Logan. LOL. Great judge of character, Andrew. It's pretty weird to me that Schultz was okay with clowning on that Steiny kid for being fake, but then doesn't call out a real scumbag like Logan. On the complete flip side, one guest that Andrew and his gang annoyed in a whole different way was DJ Academics in December 2023, who also isn't the most beloved figure on the internet. But as we've seen from Whitney and Logan's appearances, Andrew somehow ended up making himself look like the worst person in the room. It was almost as if he forgot there was a guest in the room and kept interrupting him with irrelevant questions and tangents.
I'm in London. I go to London for the first time.
Yeah.
How was it? London was kind of cool. It's definitely not American.
Why don't you?
No, shit. God damn. Yo, you own it.
Sometimes you're the most brilliant person that I've ever met,
Thank you.
and sometimes you be saying some shit that absolutely makes me side with Saucy.
What?
That right there made me side with Saucy for a moment.
How?
You said London ain't America.
I mean, that's like an obvious. That's
I
like,
call him Novak's Kyrie.
that's what we call him 2K. Anyway, so I'm in London. Diddy had previously hit me up to say, hey, listen,
Yo,
stop
think
doing my
about
side chick.
Basketball nickname. Earl Monroe, Earl the Pearl, Black Jesus.
Academics showed his patience and let them finish their tangents before trying to continue his story, but got interrupted once again.
Come on, stop playing. Anyway, so I'm in. Hold on, this all makes sense. Hold on. No, stop. No. I gotta say the story, okay?
Say the story, bro.
Check this out. So I'm in London.
Yeah.
London's cool, great vibes. So, yeah, I love the taxi cabs where you can face the other person who's in the car. Cool. Now, one night I'm trying to go out, okay? Now, they tell me I love Afrobeats. They're like, yo, we go to Afrobeat spot. But also what happened is Diddy's in town. Never met Diddy, never been around him.
Are you excited to meet Diddy?
I wasn't trying to meet Diddy. I usually...
Why not?
Here's my thing. I stay away from these industry moves. You know why?
I've had people literally tell me they avoid Diddy prior to all of this.
I avoid everybody.
With Diddy, like, I don't want to do anything with Diddy.
And to say that his viewers were not happy about this would be an understatement. Dan, this reminds me of trying to talk to a group of people on coke. Just constant interruptions speaking over each other. Ak handled this well. Andrew was driving me crazy. Huge respect to Ak for being able to maintain his composure in what seems like a fairly annoying situation, dealing with an obnoxious jackass. With one disappointed viewer, even sharing the terrible experience they've been having with the podcast in general, stating, "This podcast for me has gone from me not being able to miss an episode to not being able to watch for more than 10 minutes. Their egos have got completely out of control, and it's basically turned into 4 douchebags who just love to sit there smelling each other's farts and act completely fake. They really don't seem interested in the guests anymore, and seem more interested in what each other think. However, if constantly talking over their guests wasn't bad enough, Andrew decided to do something that would be classified as a straight-up crime. About 3 hours into the podcast, while Academics was telling a different story, Andrew reached out in front of him and grabbed a pack of Zins from Mark. However, while consuming them himself is one thing, Andrew took it a step further and began pressuring Academics into trying one as well.
Apparently one of them is about to be passed out.
Try one of these.
What is this? That's weed shit. I'm good.
It's not weed. It's a Zin. It's nicotine.
Oh, hell no.
Even when Academics insisted he already had an addictive personality and doesn't want any more chemical dependencies than the Henny he drinks, Andrew kept pushing him to give it a try.
It's not about a hook.
You won't get hooked.
It's
hell no. I'm good.
It's like a dip. Just try it.
No.
Will you just try it?
I got addictive personality for real.
This is not going to make you addicted.
No. Like, I have a really addictive... Like, you see, whatever you're doing right there, you're going to see me, like, with a mouthful of acorns, my nigga. We're not doing this shit. You're not about to go get me like no, we're not doing it.
Just try.
No, I can't do it, brother.
You can literally take it out a second afterwards. You're not going to feel anything.
No.
Just try one.
No, I can't do it, brother. I can't do it.
Just try the white boy shit for one. Why are you so afraid we drink?
By the way he was behaving, it almost felt like Andrew was sponsored by Zin, but there is no such disclosure in the video or its description. Whatever is the case, he was pressuring Academics to risk getting hooked on one of the hardest substances to quit, just for the fun of it. Of course, not all guests are willing to take his egotistical behavior, though. Some, like Shane Gillis, are more than happy to call him out when he goes too far.
Yeah, that's violent. These guys are really...
Yeah.
They're having fun.
Yeah.
For you guys to sit here and be like,
wait a minute.
Let's bring it up and mock them. Dude, that's a dude. By using them as an insult.
Using?
Yeah.
We're using you.
So you're insulting them by saying I look like them? Or you're insulting me by saying I look like them?
This is you back in your victim thing.
No, I'm not being a victim. I'm saying the jokes you're doing it's not like...
It's not PC?
That's not cool.
Shane has family members with Down syndrome and personally understands their struggles. So, while he has used people with the condition as part of his jokes before, his depiction comes from a place of love and understanding, which is why he almost always tries to highlight how people with that disorder are still people, who have wants and feelings like the rest of us. Andrew and his squad, on the other hand, only brought up videos with people with Down syndrome doing normal things to make fun of them, and that was enough to force Shane to speak up. Shane also called out Andrew for making the most basic observations, then acting like he was the smartest guy in the room for saying them out loud, or, as he coined it, the show's epiphany.
Schultz
What are you talking about?
Schultz epiphanies are my favorite. He repeats a statement. He's like,
that's crazy, though.
It's Schultz epiphany.
And the audience agreed. I haven't watched Flagrant 2 in a while. These dudes take themselves so seriously now. Everything is an epiphany with a deep meaning. Sadly, this did little to Andrew's rapidly inflating ego and warped sense of reality. And as he kept going unchecked by his yes men, this eventually resulted in a single comment of his, turning into a months-long beef involving one of the biggest hip-hop stars on the planet. It all started in July 2024, when he invited Fahad and James from the Shits and Gigs podcast on his show. And while talking about dating, the topic of the black girlfriend effect came up. This was a trend on TikTok, where black women shared how their partners changed for the better after meeting them. Andrew, however, had a completely different take on the matter, essentially labeling all black women as abusive.
Wait, what is the black girlfriend effect? This
Oh,
is
you don't know about
to
that?
blow up the other culture.
Yeah, so you'll see a guy who's had a black girlfriend. All of a sudden, he's got a buzz cut, like clean shape up.
I like that.
Yeah.
They shave their hair because they start losing it. Because they start stressing around this black girl complaining about shit all the time. That's why they gotta shave their hair.
Nah, bro. White guys with black girlfriends, they
They grow
set,
a beard
they set their
because
dick
there's
up.
more cushion when they get slapped. Yeah, that's what. That's hilarious. I think the black girlfriend effect. It might be a protective instinct, bro.
Now, I have already covered this drama in great detail, so here's a quick summary, as this is a big part of why Andrew is so hated today. Some might see this as nothing more than a joke, but many in the black community didn't see it that way, with viewers speaking out about it in the comments almost immediately. As a black woman, the stuff Andrew was saying about the black girlfriend effect was racist. He made it completely about the angry black woman trope. Can we not rest? But that wasn't all. Because after asking the pair if they preferred white women or black women when dating, he mentioned Kendrick, since this was in the middle of his feud with Drake.
Do you guys have you ever had black girlfriends?
Yeah.
Have you ever had white girls?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh wow. Okay. What's your favorite?
We love them all.
Yeah. Oh really?
We love them all.
Yeah.
That means white.
Yo, who gets it? That means white.
This was likely the reason why this moment reached Kendrick himself, because one of his next songs included the line that said, "Don't let no white comedian talk about no black woman. That's law." To which he responded by first calling Kendrick a hypocrite, as objectification of women is not an uncommon sight in hip-hop.
Listen, nobody has respected women more. Through art.
Yes.
Than rappers. Okay?
Absolutely.
So I completely understand how a rapper could look at a comedian telling a joke and be like, yo, y'all need to switch that shit up.
Yeah.
How dare y'all keep saying your wives are annoying? Be more like us.
But then, he undercut his own argument by claiming that Kendrick included that one verse about Andrew for clout, followed up by him essentially threatening to R-word Kendrick.
This is the thing that is kind of funny about it. Is like, first of all, Kendrick's people and the gang affiliate, everybody, his security, they will kill me, they will destroy me, they'll find me in the street, they'll fucking cut me up, they'll shoot me, they'll do whatever. I'm not a tough guy, y'all do. But just Kendrick, I would make love to him. There's nothing he can do about it. Just Kendrick Lamar, I would make love to him, and the only thing that he could do is decide if it's consensual or not. That's the only thing he can do. If it's me and Kendrick, no, this isn't about physics. It's about physics. I don't even know if I'll get hard. But if we're in a cell, there's a chance that if we're in a cell and we're bored and we've done tattooing each other, whatever you do in the cell, and we ran out of board games and we did all the other things, we cleaned everything, and I'm like, man, I might as well you.
At this point, it's not even trying to be funny. The only person laughing at this joke was Akash, who, as a comment puts it, must be getting paid by the laugh for the way that he cracks up at everything Schultz says. The same Akash who once crashed out over one person not laughing at his jokes.
There is no way your left hand is more interesting than what we're doing up here for an hour. Wait, we want to go home? I don't want to leave already. This guy's sitting here picking his calluses on his hand for 10 minutes. Just go. And then I just lost it. I was like, done with all my jokes. Guy, he deserved it. I don't know if we put this out because it's so mean, but it's fun, to be honest with you. I had a good time. How is this more polite than just getting up and walking out? Guy thinks he's funnier than me. Brits, dude. So glad this guy.
At the end of the day, this only made Andrew look even worse due to his unhinged response, further destroying his already declining reputation, particularly within the hip-hop community, who had been growing increasingly wary of him in recent years as he stepped out of Charlemagne's shadows.
Well, I think that's Rosenberg's point, is that's Andrew Schultz's whole MO, is he has, so he can make these jokes, he has black people or people of color sitting there so he can make these jokes. Right. Which is why Kendrick Lamar is...
Got on them. And by the way, it's not just Kendrick Lamar. Like, Kendrick is the one who said that line, but the truth is, bubbling under the surface, there have been people for a long time being like, why is everyone okay with this dude and people of his ilk saying the things that he says? This man has never cared for, crafted for, done anything for the culture. This is a guy who just makes jokes and makes money and was given a pass by Charlemagne. They used each other and sat next to each other, and now he goes, says loose things, talking about things like despising Kendrick Lamar. That was what your reply was in the moment to the most popular, in this moment, the most popular black artist in the world, in this moment, was talking about despising him. That was the joke that you thought that was the play?
And speaking of unhinged, there's someone else Andrew randomly decided to go after for absolutely no reason. Jeff Wittek. For some context, Jeff Wittek is a former member of David Dobrik's Vlog Squad. His time with Dobrik ended in June 2020, when Dobrik pressured him into doing a stunt with an excavator. The plan was to hang him by the machine and spin him around while surrounded by water. However, due to his lack of experience with operating heavy machinery, Dobrik accelerated the excavator too fast, causing Jeff to slam into it at full speed. Jeff's injuries included a fractured skull, a fractured left eye socket, a broken hip and foot, torn ligaments in his leg, and much more. He's since gone through countless surgeries, but still isn't fully recovered to this day. However, instead of recognizing that this tragedy was caused by the negligence of Dobrik, like everyone else on the internet, Andrew decided to be a contrarian and went straight to victim blaming instead. As a result, completely undermining the years of pain and suffering Jeff went through.
Isn't Jeff Wittek is he still crying about that? Why is that guy still fucking crying about that? I got hit by a train and I'm blind now. It's like, get over it. But why is he still whining about that? What's the deal?
I guess he went blind or almost blind from it.
But now he's not blind, right?
I'm not sure. I think he's keep going through more surgeries, but I don't know the stats.
So David Dobrik knocked him with a crane or something?
I guess I don't know. Spun him around on the crane.
But he agreed to do it?
Yeah, but he didn't know how fast it was gonna go.
Oh, that's a good excuse. Well, if it was going to go 10 miles per hour, I would have done it. I didn't know it was going to go 20. You knew you were going to do some dumb, dangerous shit, and then something bad happened. Yeah. The only reason we're watching is because we hope something bad happens.
Sure. This showed just how heartless and out of touch Andrew had become, and his viewers were quick to take notice. The way he spoke about Jeff complaining really shows how terrible of a human being he is, especially because there's absolutely